Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Here we are!
America!
G. Bush lost a ton of weight. He is looking
You
really
can barely
trim.
see him.
He's turned to the side.
He's
and
looking
he just
good today,
disappeared.
actually.
Honey, I shrunk G. Bush.
Shout out to my butcher. Hey, we've hit the hump day here.
Yes.
And
Yes,
Tyvus,
indeed.
good to have you in.
It's good to be
Good
here.
to see you. The roads out there.
Awful. Be careful.
If you have to travel, I'm telling you, be very, very careful.
And it's not stopping.
Ice, it's not stopping. It's pouring rain. Now, here's the weird thing. Tomorrow, it's supposed to be 65. And then Friday, it's supposed to be 20.
He put the camera on him.
Shout out to my butcher.
Yeah, shout out to the butcher, man.
You hit some ice, didn't you?
Man,
It's not nice out there.
gray ice.
You
It
don't
is
do glasses
awful
no
out
more?
there.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
By the way,
Oh,
while we're settling in a little bit,
smooth.
I've got a pet peeve I got to talk
Contact?
about.
Get it off your chest.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before. If I have, I apologize, but it's worth mentioning again because it happened to me again today. If I am driving in a parking lot or wherever,
Right.
and I stop to let you walk across the road, you got to have a little giddy up in your step, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
I mean, and even worse, this
Unless you're elderly.
What was the age?
no. This
Yeah.
person this was like a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
okay.
40 max.
You got to snap it then.
Okay?
Go.
You got to have a little pep in your step.
Yep.
And even worse, not only she was looking at me like she was afraid I was going to go. I stopped, let her go.
Yeah.
She's on her freaking phone.
Yeah, that's
You
bad
can't
etiquette.
be on your phone if I'm stopping to let you go.
Now, bad etiquette. Bad
That's
etiquette.
poor.
Google people on phones walking into things. It's a
the
rabbit
thing?
hole, as you call it, that you can't get out of.
By the way, the funniest thing,
I'm
that
actually
reminds
do
me.
that.
It's funny.
I'm going to do that.
That reminds me of the funniest thing I've ever seen in person. Years ago, Dustin and Keith, who was the producer of our radio show, were walking to lunch from the radio station with our boss, Andy Roth, who's the program director at 92.3 The Fan.
Right.
He was not on his phone. We were walking, and he literally, Andy Roth, walked face first into a sign pole.
And he was not on his phone?
He was not on his phone.
What was he looking at?
I don't remember. I guess he was talking. I don't remember exactly what he was doing. He must have been talking and not paying close attention. And of course, we laughed our asses off.
Whether he's your boss or not, it's
It was.
funny.
I wish we had that on video because it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my
The only
life.
time I've ever done that was in college. I was walking to class and I seen a girl, and I was like, "Man, look at that!" Boom! Ran into something.
That's at least a reasonable excuse.
And that girl ended up being his wife, which is a great thing. If you're going to ring the bell, you might as well ring the bell for a purpose. Bet of the day. Close yesterday, but
I
then
lost.
at the end,
It was a bad job. Yeah, they fell apart in the second half.
they did.
Kent State,
Yeah.
not a good
I
second
thought
half.
I thought maybe they could pull it out. I was checking it out on my phone, but
they had it
who
down
did
to
they play?
6.
Miami and Kent State.
No, I don't remember who they played.
Toledo.
No.
The school with a D.
Ball State. Daytona.
Ball State, not a D.
Ball State.
Yeah.
Ball State, you're right. Yeah, I
Well, that comes with
crapped
it
the
a little
pooch on
bit.
that one.
You're still 4-2, Bull. You're still 4-2.
Yeah, you're still
4-2,
winning.
yeah.
Winning percentage. What's his bet today?
Before we
You
get
gotta
to his
read
bet
it.
today,
You gotta read it.
we got to bring it to you by Bet Rivers because Bet Rivers is the official sponsor of Bull's Bet of the Day. Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook is the place to be for every single game. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. Get in on all the action with weekly
Deal.
specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey. We know Bull loves hockey. To help you win big, check out BetRivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
By the way, there will be a Bet Rivers Sportsbook at the Hall of Fame Village coming up later this year. Not sure
Permanent.
the exact date yet,
Not just
but
like-
yes.
There you go.
That's,
Very good.
that's coming this year.
And
Yeah,
by the way,
I knew they were in on it.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame.
can't see none of that. I can't
Where's
see.
your glasses today?
Yeah, what's going on?
That's what I said.
At the crib.
He's blind as a
Got
bat
him.
right now.
Crib, glasses.
You can't see
How
that
did
for
you
real?
drive to work, bro?
Hey, but listen, why you think you took so long? Look, facts. That's facts. Like I'm like you guys are. Type was like, hey, you get contacts? I say no.
He's got like scary eyes right now.
Man, I'm
Yeah.
like,
I'm not used
I don't
to
think I've
seeing
seen
him
him
like
without
that. Yeah, that's what I'm
It's
saying. I
weird
ain't seen
seeing
him
you
like
with no
this.
glasses.
yeah, I got small. Like I got 50-cent eyes. I only got like slits. Like so, if you pull up on me, they be like, man, I saw G. Bush. Man, he could look kind of mean, bro. What is he doing? Nah, I'm still nice.
We'll bring those glasses tomorrow.
Yeah.
We need you to read the graphics.
Yeah.
Busy show today.
Wait, what's Bulls better
Yeah,
today?
yeah. What's your bet?
Oh, yeah. So today, here we go. Dayton -7 over UMass. UMass stinks. Dayton's covered 3 in a row. UMass, I think,
Is this the best game of the night?
We've been trying to pick a game in Ohio. We've been leaning in that
I
direction.
get that, but I want to watch the game.
Fair. I think
I have no.
You don't want to
desire
see
watch.
Dayton Flyers? What's
I
wrong
think
with you?
we may switch it up soon. But for now, for today, we're going with Dayton -7 over UMass. So there you go. UMass hasn't covered in 7 games in a row or something like that.
Only you would know that.
Yes,
Because
I got
you
that
researched
stat.
this
Yeah,
bet.
there you go.
All right, we'll get back on the winning
track.
train with Adam the Bull
There it is.
at Bet Rivers.
Yeah.
Busy show. We're going to do some grading of Andrew Berry's moves in general. Drafts, trades, free agents. That's going to be interesting. Ryan Wilson from CBS Sports, he's their draft expert. He's going to be in. We asked him if he did a draft grade on Tyvis, and he said, who? No, I'm kidding. He actually started after Tyvis.
Yeah.
Well, he would have been
ended
wrong.
the draft.
If it wasn't a first round
Well, I mean,
pick, he would have
Dane
been
Brugler
wrong.
was complimentary of
He
you.
was wrong.
was,
I should have
But
been
you
a
know,
first
what's
round
funny
pick.
is Tyvis got offended by the negative things he said, and yet overall Dane was very complimentary.
Very complimentary.
And
He
on
said-
every player, Tyvis, there's going to be positives and negatives, even the best player.
He said I didn't have hips.
Well, okay, so maybe he got that wrong, but
you can't play DB if you ain't got no
but
hips.
the bottom line is he was overall complimentary.
I thought
of
so.
you.
No, he was.
Yes.
He was.
Did
I
he have him as a
appreciate it.
5th round grade?
Yes.
Fifth round pick.
Right. He was
that's
wrong
good.
'cause I went
True or
undrafted.
false day today. Who's going to grab the belt?
Who had
Yes.
it last?
I think Adam.
Oh, it was like
No, GD.
it was like
7 overtimes.
quadruple overtime. Yeah.
Quadruple. It was like 100 overtime.
It was. And also, DeQuell's going to be here. And load up some thoughts on what makes a good special teams coach.
I got
Because
you.
now that Prefer's gone, you've played special teams. You know that world very well. We're going
What
to
do
ask
they
you
do?
about that.
What do they
Yeah,
do?
that's I want to know. What do they do?
What do they
Do they
do?
stand over the kicker and say,
Yeah.
now look, I need you to kick that ball right between those uprights?
That's not fair.
Listen,
to say
dumbass,
that.
make that kick or I'm going to get fired.
Special,
Facts.
I'll have you know that special teams coach are probably the most beloved coaches on the coaching staff.
Because they don't do nothing.
Because they're
They
not
be
driving their
kicking it.
players.
No, they are.
Okay.
But it's just never mind. We'll
right,
get
we'll
into
get-
it.
We'll talk about
get
that.
into
We'll talk
it.
about that. Also, top 5 second baseman in baseball today. Yesterday
Yeah.
we did third baseman.
Right.
And, depending on whose list you looked at, I think we pretty much agreed that Jose Ramirez was the guy. And there's an Indian very high up on this list as well. We start, though, with Andrew Berry confidence. I don't know about you guys. When I got the instructions to this segment last night, I needed to take a concentration pill
Yeah, I
to
was-
figure out
yeah.
what in the hell are we doing?
Honestly, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I didn't want to reply in the chat to that, but I
kinda
thought
wanted-
the same
yeah.
thing.
It's idiotic.
I got it.
Explain it. Whose idea was this?
It
Yours?
was a great idea because I got it.
Tyvis did respond first. He got it perfectly.
It took me a half hour to figure out what the hell you wanted us to do.
know what's- well-
That's sad. That's age.
It probably is.
Hey.
I took a couple of Prevagen and boom, I figured it out.
Earl, come over here. Let me get my man Earl in here.
All right, explain this
no,
to
no.
the
The instructions
Hold on,
were
so,
simple. He even
you gotta
gave
bend down here so we
examples.
get, all right, so no, I'm gonna pass the mic to Earl. So yesterday we were discussing. We needed a Browns topic today. Earl said, "Hey, I had this idea. I didn't get to do it on the radio on Monday. Let's try it
All right.
today."
Now
And
I
then
feel
I sent
bad.
three.
Now I
wait,
feel, I don't feel bad calling you
no,
dumb.
no. I sent 3 texts to Earl and Anthony. Like, let me make sure I'm making this clear enough so they understand it.
Yeah.
We reworked it 3 times. Tyvis got it on first cue. So, Earl, this was from your brainchild. Would you like to explain to everyone what we're doing?
So basically what we're doing is we're looking at Andrew Berry. We know what Andrew Berry's track record is when it comes to acquiring talent.
Yep.
Look at the Amari Cooper. That was via trade. That's a good acquisition.
Yep.
The jury is still out on his draft picks. Free agents that he's signed in the past, iffy.
Yep.
So we know what our positions of need are this year. Defensive tackle, defensive end, wide receiver. The question is, how confident are you all in him acquiring talent via which way?
Yeah, so you wanted us to rank them. Like, in other words, for wide receiver, are you most confident that he can do it through the draft? If so, give them a 1.
Yeah, I ranked each one based on the order I thought they would get that player. Is that what?
No. See, no.
Let's use
Then I need to do it right.
No. See? So it was lost in translation.
And what I did is I first ranked what they needed most. Like I said, okay, first of all, I think they need a receiver most.
Oh, so
second is D tackle.
No,
third is
no.
Everybody did it.
Wait a minute.
Let me just give you the example.
Y'all got this wrong.
Defensive tackle.
I got it right.
Let's say defensive tackle is the top priority.
Yeah.
Do you trust Andrew DeBerry to get the best defensive tackle via free agency,
Draft or trade. And you
Yes.
ranked them 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
No offense.
That's how I did it.
That's how I did
It was
it.
not
Jay did it right
clear,
for the
but
record. Jay did it
it
right.
was not clear in
I
the
love
instructions.
Earl. I love Mike. I think it's a bad question.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I think the idea, the vertebrae of the idea is straight. What happened was, as I'm reading it, I'm like, so what the hell do they want me to rank? And then I read it again, and I said, I think they want me to rank. If I'm most confident in him finding a wide receiver in the draft,
That's what it
I
was.
put a 1 next to it. If I'm least confident in him getting a wide receiver via free agency, then I give that a 3.
But
That's correct.
what are we basing that on?
History.
No. You're basing that on history. Who's out there available?
Yeah.
What the
Right.
draft looks
Available.
like.
But that's what
Everything.
essentially what I did is I said, okay, I think they're going to, I don't even remember which order off the top of my head. I said, okay, based on the landscape of things, I didn't consider Berry's track record. I guess I did a little bit, but I said based on what's out there, I thought, say, wide receiver was best option was to go do it through the trade.
Yeah, so you went more best option. How's
Yeah.
he most likely to fill it?
Right.
The question was, what is your confidence level
Y'all
in him doing it through
Do
trade?
you guys want to
draft,
see
or
the
free
first
agency?
draft of the text that we were like,
Put it up.
I think the way
Throw it
I
up. It's
answered it is
long.
the
You're not
best
gonna see
way
it.
to talk about it, really.
Listen, Bull, you're not wrong. Because when I read it, I thought,
it was
shit, I just lost 50 IQ points.
Yeah, I don't know
Trying
what's
to
going
figure
on.
this out.
They literally gave an example
And
of
it
what
still
they
didn't make any
wanted.
sense.
That's the part that gets
That's
me.
what put me over the edge on what they wanted, was the example.
Read. I just texted you guys. This is the first draft of what Tyvus. You got it on the first try, so you don't.
Does anybody in our audience understand what is happening right
You got it
now?
on the first try. I got it on first try. I asked no questions. I just put it in there.
I did too. I didn't ask any questions.
No,
I wanted
but
to.
but this first one, and you guys could read it out loud if you want. This was the draft I sent to Earl, saying, Earl, I'm going to send this to the group. Does this make
right.
sense to you?
Why don't we just get to the answers?
Yeah,
Because
let's
our
just-
experts- we're wasting
we can
time
laugh
with all
at
these
it
stupid
later.
explanations.
Well, here's the thing. Our answer is going to be complete.
so we'll
Our
answer.
answers are to
If
the
you guys
wrong
all
question.
answer differently,
Yeah, we
That's
did.
fine.
you will see when we get to it.
Okay.
The trend is still like there was a very
Okay.
clear trend in what was the most confident we are, and however you decided to rank
We
them.
essentially answered different questions, though.
Yes, but the trends are the same. So, Bull, we're going to get yours first, and we're going
Okay.
to go around the horn here because that's the order of the graphics.
Let's do that.
You can take Bull's graphic full here. However, Bull, if you want to explain how you answered this for the people
Okay.
out there. And
All right. Well, I
This, by the
so-
way, is confusing the hell out of our viewers right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, I'll explain it, and hopefully it'll make sense for people. So let's start with defensive tackle. Guys, stop talking back there. You're distracting me. Let's talk about
Zip it.
Let's start at defensive tackle. Okay, can you put the graphic up? I don't know what the hell I picked. What happened to my graphic? I can't
you have it,
see
Steve.
it.
97. Take it.
Oh, my
Look at this.
Guys, pull it together back there.
It's 90.
It's
Michael
a-
Tyvus.
the-
Listen, this happens on ESPN.
Oh, hold
all
on.
the time.
Wait, we actually may have an issue, guys. They've just restarted RVR
Oh, great.
upstairs, which means we don't have graphics.
Well,
Oh, great.
Pull
At
your
least we're-
phone.
At least we're on the air.
Well,
all right, I got to pull up my
they
list
say
now.
Pull the phone.
No,
out.
we are locked in vMix. I just got an email saying they're restarting RVR at
thanks a lot.
11:10.
Thanks a lot, Tegna. Thanks, WKYC.
Hey
Way to
Jay,
screw us over.
no, Jay, before you go, Bull, this is I'm gonna air it out because this is the second time it's happened in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Can you please tell? And they don't listen to us. At
Yeah.
the
They
upwards
don't
of
listen to me either, but go ahead.
11-1. They cannot mess with RVR
I mean,
or
what-
any of the streaming Tegna One cloud stuff because
Yeah.
it does directly affect our show.
That's obnoxious on their part.
Well, do we know who's doing it and what they're doing?
The email is Jack Forrester is going to
we
reboot
still
RVR
live?
at 11:10.
Mikey,
Please
Mikey,
save your project.
Are we
there's
still
nobody,
live?
nobody in our audience cares right now.
Well,
we
we don't have
still
graphics,
live,
and
right?
you can't pull
Killing
it up.
me
So
right now.
We're live, but we don't
Okay.
have graphics, and that's an
Well,
issue.
I got my answer.
Let me get into it. I got my answer. All right, defensive tackle. Let's start with that. Good defensive tackles don't get to free agency.
No.
It almost never happens.
Correct.
Because there aren't that many frontline defensive tackles. Even less, just period. On the defensive line, star players almost never get to free agency.
And when they do, the price is high.
Yes, very much so. So to me, free agency and draft are both, they're 2 and 3 because I think it's almost, in terms of the draft, to get a guy who's going to be an impact player right away at defensive tackle, especially when highest you could draft him is the second round, is nearly impossible as well.
Right.
So to me, defensive tackle, easy was trade. That's the only way I think to get guy. It's the most likely way the Browns can get an impact player at defensive tackle. I'm not even saying a superstar, but just a guy who's good.
Sure.
Is trade. Free agency, I put second and draft third, but I think it's like 2A and 2B.
Okay.
And wide receiver, I went with free agency first.
Yeah, so
because there's no elite free agent wide receivers, but there are some pretty good guys, and that pool is going to grow. Because some of these guys we've talked about in trade, like DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, some of these other guys, there we go.
We're back, baby.
Some of these guys might end up getting cut. Salary cap casualties.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to end up being, by the time we get to free agency, which, by the way, guys, is only like 3 weeks away.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
I think we're going to have some decent wide receivers in the free agent market. I did go draft second and trade third, and here's why. I think ultimately, if you want to trade for one of these super elite wide receivers, it's going to cost you a ton, and I don't think the Browns have the draft capital to make a trade like that. At defensive end, I went with draft first because I didn't see there being a good defense. I don't think you can get a defensive end that's good via trade or free agency, whereas there could be an interesting pass rusher in the second round that could have impact right away, more likely on the outside than the inside on the line. So there you go. Overall,
So I think your grades then are how you're most likely to address these
Yes.
needs, not what is your confidence in Andrew Berry using
Yes.
these three methods to
right.
get talent.
Well, and here's why I don't like the question. Because the idea that Andrew Berry is better at one of these areas or than the other is silly.
Well, there is a little bit of historical data that you can use.
Sure.
Like in for instance, wide receiver.
Yeah.
I thought we won the Amari Cooper trade. I
Fine.
was stunned what we gave up, what little we had to give up to get him.
Yeah.
And we got a wide receiver one.
Right, but I don't. The idea that, but in the draft he hasn't done well at wide receiver. He did well with Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Which is why I knocked him way down for.
Right, but ultimately it's much easier to. Like, Amari Cooper's good.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Andrew Berry did some great analysis
However,
to figure out Amari Cooper was
You
good.
can still trade for a good wide receiver and lose the trade.
Certainly.
And he didn't.
No.
So where?
But it's rare that you make a trade for that level of wide receiver and lose the trade.
Did we
Yes.
lose the Odell trade?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
That has anybody
Do you know
lost?
what pick, by the way, that turned into for the Giants?
Well, I'm sure you know.
Dexter Lawrence.
Oh,
who
that's
was the
a
first team All-Pro
that's a-
defensive
that's a
tackle.
Great
this year.
pick. Great pick by
Wish
them.
we had that one back.
Doesn't mean the
Well,
Browns
we
would
wouldn't
have
have taken him
I'm just saying that's what the pick turned out to be.
because he's good.
And that's another thing. And
What is wrong with
you?
you?
Also got to look. You also got to take a look at it. If you gave up picks, what would the Browns done with those picks?
That's what I'm saying.
And if you got Odell Beckham Jr., if he would have went to another team, would he have done better? Because he was on another squad. He had another.
Right, but if you're grading the trade, you got to give it an L for the
That's
Browns.
an L for the Browns.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper is a W.
Yes.
So that's where I was judging Andrew Berry. Like, for instance, his ability to find defensive tackles in the draft is abysmal.
Jay, we'll just
But
take
his
your
ability
grades
to
now
find
because-
defensive tackles, period, is abysmal.
Guys have hit on defensive tackle with draft picks. It happens.
No.
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm saying. No, Jay, what I'm saying
So
is.
look at my grades for defensive
Oh, okay.
tackle.
I agree with you there.
Lord.
Yes.
No, and actually that's not the way I sent it
Wow.
in the text. The way I sent it in the text was no, period, trust, period, at, period,
Well, I agree with
all,
that.
period.
Can't
I think you got it right.
I
agree
don't
with you.
trust him to find them. It's like a Dr. Seuss poem.
Nice.
I don't trust you to find them in a trade. I don't trust you to find them in free agency.
Yeah.
I don't trust you to find them in a draft pick. I don't trust you to find them at all. There's no track record of him
None.
hitting on defensive tackles, and that's an issue. because we're going to eventually have to find talent there. And if you can't find it from one of the 3 avenues that are available,
So how would you get it?
grow one. I would put a petri dish in, and I would take some clone cells, and I would mix them all up with great defensive tackles of the past, and I would grow it in a chia dish. No, I don't understand how we're going to find talent at that position, but I can tell you this: if we don't, and we don't fast, he's going to be looking for a new job.
Who?
Andrew Berry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Defensive end.
By the way, Tyvus is getting everybody sick today.
Yeah, he's over
He's
here
getting
blowing his
everybody
nose.
sick. He should not be here.
I'm
We
not
love
even-
him.
not
He
even
should have stayed home today.
How am I? Can you?
Mike, he should have stayed
Can
home
you tell
today.
I'm sick?
I didn't know
Your
he was
eyes
sick till
are
he walked
very
in.
glassy.
I cannot get
That's
sick again.
to me
Because
is a
I
sign of
yawn.
COVID.
I yawn. Wow.
Yeah, and I can smell COVID in the air.
I can't believe y'all.
I can
right
smell
now.
it.
If I get sick, I'm going to be so pissed at Tyvus.
Here's
You're
the
not
deal.
gonna
You
get
can't
Tyvus.
get
See,
sick.
this is the thing.
I just called him
This
Tyvid.
is the thing. This is the
I
thing.
didn't mean to, but
It's all in your mind.
No, it's not in your mind.
If you think that you go
So
get
the
sick,
sniffles right now, you're imagining those?
yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Well, just
My
mind
parents are
over
coming this
matter.
week.
and I'm
I
blaming Mike is
better
in
not
charge
be
of this
sick.
show. He's
Y'all
partly
ain't.
to blame.
I ain't even did.
He didn't tell us
Should've
till he
said-
came in this morning.
You should have sent Tyvus
I
home.
didn't do anything.
Okay, back to the grades.
Go ahead.
No trust at all on D tackles in any of the 3. So I couldn't rank them because I don't trust any of them. Defensive end, I would expect that we're going to do better with a trade or free agency than the draft just because of where we pick. Wide receivers, same thing. We have drafted wide receivers with the exception of DPJ. I don't like our draft picks at wide receiver, Andrew Berry. I looked at all of his draft picks this morning because I wanted to remind myself, where are we with him on the draft? Guys, I think he's been a C- overall on his 3 drafts. And here's the troublesome part. He's only cut one of the 15 players or so that he's drafted. Jedrick Wills. You've got to hit on a draft pick that high when you take a tackle.
When they picking up
That's
his
one
fifth-
that you don't think about for 10 years when you take one that high. And he's going to get an extra year, but he's only going to get an extra year because they don't have any other options.
I was getting ready to do a video on Jedrick Wills, and I had his all 22, and I'm looking at it. Some of it's so bad, I don't want to put it out because I feel like sometimes players can get that you're trying to pinpoint them and you trying to just embarrass them, but I don't understand what they're looking at when they're talking about giving him a 5th year. I just don't get it.
But you know what Joe Thomas said? Joe Thomas said there are times. He said, for me, when I see a guy do it once, I know he can do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He can do it, but Joe also said, Joe was very critical of Jedrick Wills and kind of surprised me. He said there's obviously plays where he doesn't know where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to be doing, so he just stops.
That's unacceptable.
And he said, what you do in that situation is just hit somebody.
The worst
You
thing.
can't be wrong if you just hit somebody. But to your point, I've seen it a number of times where it looks like he needs a Control-Alt-Delete. He's just kind of buzzing around on the field like he doesn't know where he's supposed to be.
You get guys hitting the backfield. There's he's standing over the pile while his dude that he was supposed to be blocking or someone in the vicinity is supposed to be blocked. And he's just looking as your quarterback
shot.
or your running back is getting smacked in the face.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I look at it as a C- too. What changed my mind was
When's the last time the Browns had a draft better than a C?
it's been a long time.
I don't know.
I like the draft where they got
Hey,
all
that's-
their starters.
that's actually a good
They had
question.
the Baker, they had the Denzel Ward, they had the Njoku.
Yeah.
None of that was
That wasn't the
was the
same.
same one.
Yeah.
That was one.
Which
before.
Miles, it was Miles Jabril Njoku was in there.
Yeah.
That was a very
Jabril
good
was
draft.
an L, too.
But the rest of that draft, except for
God,
Ogunjobi, who's decent player, not for the Browns,
I thought that was a good solid pick because he's playing
decent player.
multiple
The rest of that draft is completely useless.
Yeah, but that wasn't even Barry.
That was
No,
No, that was Dorsey.
Dorsey.
So I can't.
but
really,
that's not better than a C. I mean, is
No.
it better than a C because Miles Garrett's
I
in
mean,
there?
you got a Hall of Famer in there, so I don't know how you
You want to give
that
that
skews everything up.
Miles Garrett's. Here's the. Let me give you a rapid fire. The 3 best players in every draft for the last decade. No,
Okay.
is that too wordy, too mouth? What do you think?
Go ahead.
It's not. If it's not
Shoot
good.
it.
All right, 3 best players from last year. 1, Martin Emerson. 2,
I don't know.
Cade York.
Maybe,
No.
but you can't even say he's a win yet.
Not yet.
Alex Wright showed some promise at the end of the season.
All right, 2021. This is obviously Andrew Berry. Number 1, Greg Newsome. Number 2,
That's
Okay.
hard.
James Hudson. 2020, this is his first draft.
Yep.
Man.
Number 1 player, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Number 2, Grant Delpit. 3, Jedrick Wills.
And Grant Delpit's probably gone, right?
They'll keep Delpit.
He
No,
came
they'll
on
keep-
at the
they'll
second
keep
half of the
Delpit.
year, I
They'll
thought.
keep Delpit.
But
That's not a terrible
the
draft.
jury is out on what
But
he is.
you know, you're looking at the cream.
Yeah.
Now throw in the Greedy Williams, and
Well,
so-
Greedy Williams wasn't him.
it wasn't. I
that
thought
was
he
Dorsey.
Oh yeah, because he sat out a year because
So
of the injury.
2019
You're
was
right.
Dorsey's last draft. That's a horrible draft. The best player in that draft is Sione Takitaki. And
That's
he's not
hard.
very good. 2018, Dorsey's first draft, top 3 players, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, and then the third one is probably Austin Corbett, who's a decent player. That's a decent draft.
Yeah.
But he blew it on Baker, so it knocks it down.
Yeah.
2017, Myles Garrett, Njoku, and Ogunjobi. I would
And that
probably
was Dorsey.
that was
Sashi?
No, I think that was Dorsey.
no, that wasn't Dorsey. Dorsey only had
that
2
looked like
drafts.
Sashi Brown.
That was Sashi's last draft.
Which
And that was
good.
really supposed to be the draft where we started paying
Yeah,
off all that.
that was a
banking.
decent draft. Now they had 3 first-round picks that
But
year.
remember, you had to go 0-16 and 1-15
Right.
to get that.
2016 top 3 players: Joe Schobert, Carl Nassib, Emmanuel Ogbah.
Okay, so the obvious trend that you're drawing out here
Yeah.
is that this organization,
Is not good at drafting.
if you want to know what happens on the field, you have to look at what happens in the draft room.
Yeah.
And they're a D- in the draft room.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The only
But-
reason they're not an F is because they did get Miles and Denzel.
Yeah,
But
I
you take enough shots in the dark, you're going to hit your target a couple times.
Yeah.
Well,
But the draft record here is absolutely abysmal.
and by
That's
the-
Miles was a layup. Denzel
And by the
was a
way,
layup.
I was just about to say that. I
a
don't know
layup.
about
You can't miss
Denzel.
on
There
those
was-
guys.
there was
Well,
some
I
debate.
knew- I knew
No, but there
Denzel,
was some
so it was
debate.
different.
But every
Not
team,
with Miles.
every
Miles
team in
is a
football
lay-
would have
is a
taken
layup.
Miles.
Slam
Yeah,
dunk.
yeah.
Yeah, slam dunk.
Because there was no, well, who was the quarterback state? Wasn't that the year with Watson and Mahomes?
Yeah.
It may have been.
They probably
Yeah.
should-
Yeah, they took Miles
Now
Trubisky.
remember,
it was Miles
Mahomes, in
Trubisky.
fairness, went much later in the draft. There were a
He
lot
went
of
10.
teams.
Who did?
Yeah, I mean, didn't go 1, 2, or 3. I mean,
Yeah.
there were teams that
everybody
passed on
blew
Mahomes.
it. Everybody
But
blew it.
There were teams
didn't
that blew it.
Trubisky go first before them? Is that
I think
the
he
same
did.
year?
I think he did.
Okay, yeah.
Bull. You
Yeah.
know what? There's one common denominator through all those drafts.
Yeah,
Di
Jimmy
Podesta.
Haslam.
Di Podesta.
Nah,
He's been there for all of them.
Well, not the first couple, but
Find out what year he joined the Browns.
yeah. But the thing is,
No, he's been here for all those drafts.
I will
all the drafts
say,
you mentioned. he's
I
been
will
here for.
say that I don't think he had any say in the John Dorsey drafts. He certainly did with
None?
Sashi. I don't think he did, based on what we've heard, based on what
Well,
Jason said.
I know that there was a lot of pushback
Yeah.
between Dorsey and Di Podesta.
Right.
But I don't know that he had zero input. If I'm Jimmy and I'm paying this guy what I'm paying him, damn well right I'm gonna listen to him. I'm not gonna put him in a corner and pay him money.
Based on what I know, I think he had nothing to do with the Dorsey
2016 he
drafts.
came to the Browns.
Yeah.
Out of all these, I look at
I
it-
would say Jimmy is the common
I
denominator.
look
Well,
at the
Jimmy
yeah.
and Di Podesta.
I look at the generations. When you talk about when you get past 2016, you start to see the emergence of top flight receivers. You start to see people going downfield. You start to see kids that are better coming out of high school, running the spread in college, being ready to go as soon as they step in the league. I'd argue this, that the Cleveland Browns have never, in the history of their organization, drafted, developed, and put a star receiver on the field. Never. History. Ever. Kate, name one.
Where?
Josh Gordon.
Browns?
Browns.
Yeah, but he played.
He
had the talent, but
he played 5 snaps.
Well, now
that's on. I wouldn't blame the Browns for Josh
played-
Gordon,
hold on,
but yeah,
hold on,
you're
but-
right.
they drafted Paul Warfield.
I'll give you.
It's 1,000 years ago,
I'll give
though.
you
Well,
Paul,
he said ever.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll give you Paul Warfield, but if you got any sort of black and white TV,
Dave
Edwards.
Logan was a good wide receiver. Webster Slaughter was a good wide receiver.
I said
Braylon
superstar.
Edwards had a Pro Bowl year.
I said, you give me
Yeah,
one
but
year.
you're talking about not 1 year,
Like-
Tyvis.
like,
I can't give you
Brian
nobody
Brennan
else.
had a nice career.
That-
I mean, but not superstar.
I
not
can't
like
give you a superstar.
when you look at the Steelers, you can say
Yeah, no, that they.
Swan Stallworth, Hall of Famers, and you're like, okay, let me just break that
Well,
back.
that's just the 70s and
That's
80s.
just the 70s.
Then you go into the 90s. You've got all kinds of draft wide receivers they've drafted. Antonio Brown came from a small school.
But I mean,
they found that talent.
But I mean, the Browns haven't been never really been a passing. They've always been run first.
So are the Steelers.
Well, you got something.
That's
there.
a problem.
You got something. there.
You gotta have. If you looking at receivers, we've had guys with good careers, decent careers, and even the time between the '80s and now, it's getting further and further and further. That's 40 years ago. We think 80 is
No,
yesterday.
I know you're right. That's
Yeah, I mean,
40
who was
years
the
ago.
last receiver the Browns drafted and developed that was even
Remotely.
a borderline Hall of Famer?
None.
no. When you
Like
go that far.
even where you could mention his name as a remote possibility of all.
Or being the best receiver in the league at that point.
Right. Like
Jim
a
Bush
top.
is right.
Yeah.
No, there is a zero.
I mean,
track
Amari
record
Cooper is the best wide receiver, and he obviously the Browns didn't draft or develop him. But Amari Cooper's the best Browns receiver in,
Ever.
Now,
Not ever.
Odell Beckham at his best certainly was better than Amari Cooper.
But Jarvis
but
Landry
he wasn't-
had some good years.
He
here.
had
He did.
1,000.
Yeah.
Odell had 1,000 one
But
year.
Amari Cooper, I'm saying Amari Cooper, like what he did for the Browns last year, is better than anything Landry or Beckham ever did for the Browns.
Yeah. Well, no, Landry had a bigger year. Landry's first year here was bigger than Amari last year.
Landry's impact was bigger than on the field.
No question.
Yeah, what he did was much bigger than what he did.
The
on
front
the field.
office credits him for changing the
Yeah,
culture.
for sure.
Interesting how the second he's gone, the culture went right back.
I
one of the
tried
things-
to tell him that, but
and we
nobody
talk
listened.
Well, he
about
was here last year, and it wasn't good culture.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Jarvis Landry?
Yeah, he was here last
He
year.
was here last
21.
year.
I
No,
mean,
I'm saying last season.
Like
Right,
this,
but-
not this past.
yeah,
season,
I'm
like
talking
this
about,
one.
but that was last year. We're
But they-
2023.
but
I'm talking about 2022.
no, but the culture wasn't good in 21 either.
What's wrong with him?
And one thing that we don't get to is we always talk about the quarterback. The quarterback, whether or not the quarterback is under his rookie contract. Well, you can reverse engineer that too. Look how great that you look when you got Jamar Chase on a rookie contract, right?
Sure.
When you got T. Higgins and he's a young receiver and he's on his fourth year. He wasn't a first round pick. He don't get the fifth year. But look at these guys, these young guys coming into the league, and you're like, wow, that's what you can do with a rookie receiver, because those guys get $100 million too. If you can do that, and
That's why teams have decided to trade some of these
Well,
wide receivers.
I'd
Tyreek
argue that the Browns
Brown,
at least
A.J. Brown.
in the past few years have at least tried to address it. I mean, before Philadelphia did what they did this year, before Miami did what they did this year, like that, and the Lions, those three teams, they all addressed everything but the quarterback position. I would argue that Dorsey did that. He went out there, he got Jarvis, I don't know if he got Jarvis, they got Odell. And they was like, listen, we're going to give Baker all the ammunition he needs. We're going to get you a coach that likes to throw the ball a lot. We're going to give you the ammunition you need. If it doesn't work, then it's solely because of you. And it failed. So at least they tried to get a wide receiver in here.
We don't get points for trying.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
They,
By the
they,
way, they did make an effort,
throw a
but
shot to do it.
they just got the wrong guys.
And Odell was supposed to be this and Jarvis was supposed to be this, but obviously it didn't pan out.
By the way, Jarvis did have one season where he had 1,174 yards for the Browns, 14 more yards than Amari Cooper, but 3 less touchdowns. So I would say it's about it's
they're
equal.
wash.
I would say
They're
it's
a
equal.
wash.
Yeah.
I mean, the
But
fact
I'm
of the matter is,
expecting
I'm a little
Cooper to
sick
do
to
it
my
again.
stomach now after you point out that our absolute deficiency at drafting and developing star wide receivers.
I
Think
think
of the star wide receivers that have been
the-
developed in this league since the 80s, and we haven't done it?
I mean, the only star/Hall of Famer we've gotten and developed, period, has been Joe and not gonna say period.
When's the last?
but it's
Who's the
Joe
last
Thomas
Browns
and
Hall of
Nick
Famer
Chubb.
before Joe Thomas?
Ozzie?
Ozzie.
That's a long time
99.
ago. Yeah.
That's a
Joe
G.
and Nick
play.
Chubb is the only two that I can think of.
And believe it or not, your best receiver was a converted quarterback for a while. Terrell Pryor was your best receiver.
Wow. He only had one good year too.
But I'm saying that's how bad it is.
I mean,
He's a
we do have to
converted
give them
receiver.
credit for Josh Gordon too. I mean, I know he was a supplemental pick, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
But they still drafted him, and he was the real deal. We saw it with our own
Immensely
eyes.
talented,
It
yeah.
just wasn't sustainable with his lifestyle.
Yeah, you know,
Man,
you would think you could
depressing.
find a DK Metcalf.
makes me,
or
you know what
AJ
it makes
Brown
you know
or
what that
something.
makes me wonder? Has it always been the quarterback, or has it been the wide receivers?
I don't think
Yes.
they're bad either. Both.
Yes.
That's why you get smoked.
Yeah, well,
Like, if the
it's not like the
receivers-
Browns have drafted and developed any quarterbacks either.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I don't know. Like,
You know, the overwhelming sense that I'm feeling right now is I just showed up to a 5-alarm blaze, and I have a straw and my spit, and that's all I have.
It's not good. You're in a bad spot.
I mean, this building is burning and crumbling around me.
straw in my spit.
And I can't, I mean, where do you dive in?
And the only thing that could save it is a quarterback who was in major trouble with the law and looked like crap on the field last year. That's your only hope. That is
straw.
literally your only hope.
You're about right.
Because if he's not good,
It's over.
nothing else matters.
So,
That's why.
If he's the quarterback we saw last year, which I think we all think is unlikely.
We hope.
I think Jay's
We
the
hope.
most pessimistic of all of us, and I think even you would think he'd be better than last year. Even if you don't think he's going to be great, I would think at least he's going to be mediocre.
Yeah.
But if he's the guy we saw last year, the franchise is done.
Yeah, I mean,
for
even if it's
years.
mediocre since
That's still
this
not good
franchise,
enough.
too, because you can't pay $50 million to a
No,
quarterback.
he's got to
who's
be a
mediocre.
top 10 quarterback.
listen,
You know who's going to fix it? Ryan Wilson.
yeah.
He doesn't know this yet, but he's going to take the job as the Browns GM. He's going to leave the CBS Draft board, and he's going to be our draft guru, at least for the next 30 minutes. Ryan, the draft capital isn't there at the top of the draft for this team. Is it possible that they can dig out of the hole that they're in with the pieces that they're sitting on right now for the draft?
Yeah, so I'm hesitating because on paper, this team in general looks pretty good. There's some things to fix on the defensive line. We know that. But I think the conversation has to start with the quarterback, right? And part of me wonders, and you guys would know better than me, and I was thinking about this the other day, if the Browns had just wished that Deshaun Watson didn't play at all last year, because you don't have to answer those questions about why he's not playing up to the level you want him to, and I get all that. In terms of fixing the team, again, it starts with the quarterback. You have to get the quarterback right, because we could talk about the Jets in the same voice, right? That defense was dominating people. Mike White came in and outplayed Zach Wilson. Now they're looking for a quarterback, Derek Carr, whomever it may be. But if Deshaun Watson, and I asked this question on a podcast I do at CBS yesterday, if you get 65% of peak Deshaun Watson at his time in Houston, this team wins 10 football games, right? And that's the question. That's what you have to work through.
Ryan, you think 65% of that guy they win 10? I don't see that.
Not with that defense.
What percentage of peak Deshaun do you need?
85 for double-digit
Fair enough.
wins.
No, I'll
It
give you that.
depends on the defense.
Yeah,
To me,
I just need a 65. I mean, I think we got 65% of I think we got 50% of Sean.
I don't
Sean
even
last
think
year.
it was 50%.
I mean, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks, 6 games.
Yeah, I thought he was
bad.
terrible.
He was bad. I wish we could get 65% of Deshaun and win 10.
But we didn't.
But I think it's going to be
The Browns
more than that.
didn't. I get what you're saying, Ryan. We could quibble about the exact percentage. The bottom line is the Browns didn't make this trade to get 65% of what Deshaun Watson was, and he's young enough that there's no reason that he shouldn't be able to get back to the player he was. I personally think, and there's no way for me to know this for sure, I think a lot of this is mental hurdles that he's got to get over. He put himself in this position. Only he and these women know exactly what happened. But however much he's actually responsible, there's a certain percentage. Who knows what the exact percentage is. But however much, it doesn't matter. He's got a mental hurdle to get over. It seems pretty obvious that he has lost that edge, that moxie, that confidence, whatever it is, and if he can't get over that, then he'll never get back to being that player. That's what I think, at least.
No, I think you're right. And I said this during the season. You look at that contract, the guaranteed money, the $250+ million, whatever the actual number is, that money to that player based on what he did in the past, that's Josh Allen, that's Patrick Mahomes' money. And you can say that's unfair. Say it. But that's what you're expecting when you sign a player to that sort of deal.
You're 1,000% right.
So you expect that production. So the fact that we're saying we're quibbling over 65 or 85% tells us where we're at in the conversation and how short of the mark we are right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a perfect segue. We talked about how important he is to the Cleveland Browns and how important it is to get him back to where he needs to be before we can get to compete with other teams in the AFC. That just goes to show me that you got to have a receiver. If you look at the Browns roster right now at receiver and you compare it to some of the elite teams in the AFC, they don't have a better receiving core than Miami. They don't have one better than Buffalo. They're not anywhere near close to what the Cincinnati Bengals are. And I don't even count what the Chiefs do because they got a cheat code in Patrick Mahomes. He could play with me and you. So my thing is, if you want to maximize Deshaun Watson, don't you have to pony up and say, I might not be getting the best value for an Asian receiver in the trade. I might overpay for this guy in free agency, or I might have to package something to get an elite receiver. Do you think receiver is a position that is important just because Deshaun Watson is that important?
Yeah, I'll turn the question around in this way and say, what happened to Josh Allen when Stephon Diggs showed up? Did he get better? Right? So, I mean, that's the thing, because Josh Allen, he came out of Wyoming. He was only completing half of his passes or whatever, and people were concerned whether he was going to be the dude or not, and he started making progress, and the next thing you know, Stephon Diggs shows up, and his productivity skyrockets. Now, some of that obviously is Josh Allen continuing to improve, but it helps to have someone to throw the ball to. Now, Amari Cooper was good last year, but you got to have a plan B. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I thought he did some good things, but I thought Anthony Schwartz hasn't quite lived up to expectations. He's a track guy coming out of Auburn and all that, but I thought that they were hoping for more for him at this point. Jarvis Landry clearly, didn't work out. He's now gone. But I think if you can find a wide receiver that opens things up not only for Amari, but makes life easier for Deshaun as a reliable weapon, whether it's through the draft, and that's more of a crapshoot because we don't know what you get necessarily unless you get Jamar Chase, or whether it's overpaying for a wide receiver that will bring value, there's certainly something to be said for that. Look, man, you overpay for the quarterback. Don't stop now. Don't think that he's going to fix it by himself.
Just keep digging, man.
But he's been struggling.
Ryan, obviously there's some veteran wide receivers the Browns will be looking at, but if let's say they go wide receiver where they're picking in the second round, Mike put up some names there on the screen. When you look at the draft board or your draft board, who are some names in the second round that you think could potentially be, as G mentioned before, what T. Higgins has become, maybe not the exact type of receiver, but obviously T. Higgins made an immediate impact as a second round wide receiver.
Bring that kind of production.
Yes, bring that kind of production. Who do you see as possibilities for them there?
The interesting thing is this draft class of wide receivers is pretty shallow, which is weird to say because we've seen the wide receivers come up through high school and college and be dominant, especially the last 2 or 3 draft classes. So after Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison, things get a little interesting. But a player like Jalen Hyatt, he may end up going in the first round because of his pure track speed, and maybe that scares you off because of Anthony Schwartz. But he was a touchdown machine last year for Tennessee. And if he falls to 42, I think that's the first time the Browns are on the clock. That feels like a pick. You're like, I feel great about this because you have Amari on one side and you just have guys running go routes all day and no one can cover Jalen Hyatt, and that opens things up for everyone else in the middle of the field, whether it's Njoku or Harrison Bryant or whoever.
Do you think he'll slip that low, though?
I don't. I'm just trying to be optimistic, but I got some other names for you.
Oh, Ryan, you're my kind of guy, brother.
Ryan had Hyatt going 25th or 26th.
Maybe the Browns could trade up. So. It's possible.
But here's the thing.
He could.
There are some other guys to keep an eye on. So Zay Flowers is electric out of BC. He's a fun player. Josh Downs out of UNC is electric. He's a fun player. These guys have return ability as well. They can line up inside or outside. They're going to be smaller. They're going to be sub 6 feet. They'll be about 175-ish, maybe lighter for Zay Jones. But there are players like that. Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati is another player who are just electric middle of the field players who can also win deep, but they don't have the size of a Jalen Hyatt and certainly not of a Quentin Johnson. They're not going to be T. Higgins 6'3", 6'4", but they're 6 feet and under guys who are great in small areas. You can't catch them in the open field, and they're touchdown machines, yak machines on you could throw them a slant or you could throw them a post, and either way they end up in the end zone.
Ryan, we've been focusing on wide receiver, and that is an area of need.
Thank you.
But they currently have a good wide receiver. I know you need more. But to me, the glaring area is defensive tackle because they don't have anybody there.
Talk about it.
So if you're advising the Browns, and I know it's all who's available at that point, but are you spending more of your time focusing on the interior defensive line or wide receiver? Where are you going in the first round if you're the Browns?
Second
round.
Second round,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, with their first pick.
That's right. So I did a 2-round mock draft incidentally earlier this week, and I had them going with Siaki Ika, the huge 340-pound, there he is right there, defensive tackle out of Baylor. Now, he's a 2-down guy, so that's probably why he won't go around 1, but he can be dominant. And, you might get Danny Shelton vibes, and that may be good or bad for you.
Bad. Very bad.
Here's the problem. Both wide receiver and defensive tackle are light in this class in terms of depth. So that's a concern. Javon Dexter's another name that you look there, the 33rd team had. He's a good football player. He's first-round talent that sometimes the focus isn't there play in and play out. And Mozzie Smith's another player. He's as nasty as they come, but you'd like to see a little bit more consistency. But in terms of high-end athleticism, freakish athleticism, those guys, Jervon Dexter, Mozzie Smith, check those boxes. So when you get down into round 2 and even into day 3 with this draft class, the depth at defensive tackle, you're doing some trade-offs, right? You're not going to hit a home run at pick 42 at either position necessarily unless you get lucky. But you have to ask yourself, what's more important, getting a wide receiver at 42 and fixing the offense as much as you can, or plugging all the holes along the defensive line? And you may lean defense early, of course, depending on how free agency works out. You may lean defense early in the draft, given how hard it was for them to stop the run last season at
I'm
times.
with you.
Let me
Address
ask-
wide receiver and free agency.
Let me ask, about that guy, that Siaki guy. What is his size? What
340.
So let me ask. So with the game being a lateral game, you don't worry about him? Because we had Phil Taylor in here last week, and he was talking about like his size defensive tackles aren't that good anymore because now this game is lateral. How do you think he would pan out if the game is going, east and west?
No, that's a great point. And here's the thing. He's a 2-down guy. So now you have a guy that's on the field, coming off the field on third downs, and then what? You spent the 42nd pick on a guy that's plugging it for the run. I get it. And I do a podcast at CBS Sports with Rick Spielman, and that's his concern. He said, listen, I like Ika, but I ain't taking him in the first round because I got to take him off the field. And here's the thing. There are a lot of guys who are 310 to 280, go down to 280, who play on the inside, who are twitchy as all get out, who move well laterally, who shoot gaps all day long, and they give you that in terms of their arsenal, but they're not going to win. They're not going to stand up to double teams. They're not going to be shedding blocks consistently and getting off blocks to make plays in the A gap and against the run. So that's the trade-off. But I take your point. I mean, a guy like Elijah Cansey out of Pitt, that's a guy, if you're interested in someone who is extremely twitched up playing inside, go watch Elijah Cansey. He has some day 2 potential. Team's a little concerned about the weight. I think he played at about 275, which is extremely light to be playing, 0-3 technique or whatever inside interior. But again, he gives you a different sort of flavor of ice cream when you're looking at a defensive tackle and the things they can do. To your point about being a 3-down guy, getting off blocks, moving laterally, sideline to sideline, and you see that in players like a Cansey, for example, out of Pitt.
By the way, something that Danny Shelton was excellent at, which we can't, maybe this guy will be too, he was great at jumping on the pile. He was a champion. Nobody better at jumping on the
tackle for
pile.
Danny.
Plays over, here comes Danny Shelton jumping in.
Well,
he was great at that. Now, linebacker is another position in need, Ryan, for the Browns. And I feel like more and more, that's a position where you'll often see guys, great value, 3rd, 4th, even 5th round, because the position's been devalued. And so there's players at those positions, I think, that are good players, maybe not superstars, but good players, that drop. Do you agree with that? And will that be the case this year?
Yes and yes. I absolutely think so. I think Drew Sanders, who's sort of a freakish athlete out of Arkansas, Alabama transfer, has a chance to be a first-round pick. He's 6'5", 232 last time he was weighed and measured. So there you see him right there. Whoever's running the graphics is hitting grand slam after grand slam, by the way.
This guy.
Yeah, they're
Thank
on
you.
it.
But
Thank you very much, Ryan.
other names to watch. So Trenton Simpson, fantastic. Like, he checks every box physically of what you want. The problem is the lack of awareness around him, right? I was talking to a scout that said he plays like he's looking through a straw, and that gives you a perfect encapsulation of he's sort of looking through blinders. He doesn't see everything that's going on. But
We
the
got some of
athleticism,
That sounds like a
right now.
perfect Browns player.
We got some of those guys right now.
We good. We can't have
Browns
that.
have plenty of those guys.
We can't have that.
But I'll give you some names that you might want to keep an eye on. So Ivan Pace Jr. out of Cincinnati, he has a chance to be a late day 2, day 3 guy. Physical, and look, here's the thing. You guys know this. These off-ball linebackers these days, they're struggling to get up blocks at times because they're all about 225, 235 between there. Sometimes they're running around blocks, and I get it. That's how it works. You don't have Ray Lewis anymore out there patrolling the middle of the field. Cam Jones out of Indiana. This dude will hit anything that moves. Undersized, but he flies around, and he is a lot of fun. We saw Jack Campbell on the graphic there. He's a little more old school, but again, a playmaker, day 3 guy. And I'll mention Noah Sewell, Panay's brother, who didn't quite live up to expectations. I need to dig around and see if maybe he was battling injury last year, because sometimes when these players aren't playing like you want them to play, there's something going on that we don't know about. But again, another really good athlete. You can get value perhaps late day 2, early day 3, because he didn't live up to the fall, the August conversation about him being in the first round.
Is it, Could it be this thing for the Browns? I look at it, they need a linebacker, they need a D tackle, receiver, and also an edge rusher. We haven't talked about the edge. Is the edge rushers a little bit more in depth? Is there more edge rushers in this draft you can get? And possibly, if the defensive tackles that they see on the board when they're drafting aren't there, could they potentially say, well, look, we know we need to D-tackle more than edge rusher, but we need to get a replacement for Clowney, and we like the edge position better as far as the talent.
Yeah, listen, this edge class, now we finally come to an agreement where you can find depth up and down the board. So if they happen to be there at 43 and the defensive tackle or wide receiver, whomever isn't there, and you want to take an edge rusher, you're going to have picks for days. And there are going to be a lot of guys that you might like. And here's a name to keep an eye on. And he weighs 290. We'll see what he weighs next week at the Combine. Tuli Tuipulotu out of USC. He plays outside. He can play a little 3 technique. He played at 290. At least he was listed at 290. He plays like he's moving at about 260.
I like that.
And he is fun. And, again, you have the versatility along the defensive line. They can do more things than, say, a Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith might be there, had the pec injury, a little undersized by edge rush standards, probably sub 240. So he does one thing well, and that's rush the passer. He doesn't drop into coverage a lot, but he gives you that. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame is 260, 6'5", still learning the position, as strong as an ox, uses his hands well, needs to expand on the pass rush moves because he's a former tight end. He hasn't been playing very long on the outside. But there are a ton of guys in that range that should be there. Will McDonald out of Iowa State, another slender, long-armed, physical leverage freak in terms of winning consistently that way. Needs to get a little stronger. But these are things that you expect these young men to do. They're 21, 22 years old. They're going to gain weight. They're going to get stronger. They're going to get better with better coaching. But there will be a ton of guys in round 2 and even into day 3 if you're looking for edge rushers to help your football team.
Ryan, let's talk about the Buckeyes here a little bit, and where you see some of these guys going. Some of the, obviously there's a ton of talent. We didn't talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba when it comes to wide receiver. We had Dane Brugler on last week. He was kind of down on him a little bit. And you didn't mention him for the Browns' second-round pick. But so what's your thoughts on him and some of the other Buckeyes in the mix?
You know what's funny? Like Dane is the OG of draft analysts, and he knows more than anyone, and he works as hard as anyone out there. And I'll say this. Jackson Smith and Jigba, it feels like when you're in the draft media and covering the draft, it's what have you done for me lately, right?
Yeah.
He played 3 games, had 5 catches, had the hamstring issue,
Yeah.
and all those things are put in the back of your mind when you're watching Marvin Harrison Jr., when you're watching Jordan Addison, when you're watching Quentin Johnston. 2 weeks ago, we were in Phoenix for the Super Bowl for work, and Garrett Wilson stopped by, and I was chatting him up after our segment, and I said, so what do you think of Jackson Smith and Jigba? And he said, let me tell you something. He was the best player on our team at wide receiver in 2021. And you go back and look at the stats, led the team in receptions, led the team in yards, ahead of Chris Olave, ahead of Garrett, ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., all guys who were either first-round picks or are going to be first-round picks. And that's important to remember, right? Now, is he as athletic as those players? No. And I want to see what he runs next week, and that's going to be the big thing, assuming he's healthy. If he runs sub 4.5, okay, let's talk, because the tape is the tape. And that's not going to change. If he runs a 4.65, then people are going to have the issues that they have. But I think he's a first-round guy. I think he helps the football team immediately, and I think he does a lot of things. He's a very smart football player, and while he doesn't have the athleticism of a Garrett or an Olave, it's hard to get away from what he accomplished in 2021 on that football team.
If Marvin Harrison Jr. was in this draft class, where would he go?
Man, if I'm the Bears, I might take Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall.
You know what? You'd be crazy not to, man.
That's what Dane said, too, last week.
I know he has the pedigree. He has the tape now.
He's
he made
stud.
some catches last year that were just absolutely incredible.
He could sit out all next year, and they're not going. It's not going to be. Nobody's going to hold that against him.
No.
What he did against Georgia, that whole myth about up north receivers or speed, he almost single-handedly beat them by himself.
Hey, Ryan, real quick before you go, I need to get a Bengals question in here. Bengals picking late in the first round. Obviously, they're in a position to just go best player available, certainly. I've heard a lot of talk about tight end. I thought Hayden Hurst did a pretty good job. I know he's a free agent, but I don't mind if they bring him back. But there are some if they brought in some young stud tight end to add to their offense already, that would be interesting. Clearly, offensive line, they still need guys for the future. What are you predicting for them late in the first round?
Yeah, typically when I do these mock drafts, offensive line has been a target. Anton Harrison is a guy, the left tackle out of Oklahoma, that I've had going there occasionally. Broderick Jones out of Georgia. I've had teams tell me that Anton Harrison could secretly be one of the best offensive tackles in this class, so maybe he goes higher than that. But in terms of those tight ends, this tight end class is deep as well. And, Michael Mayer is the guy. We were the Senior Bowl, man, and there were teams talking about Luke Musgrave as being tight end 1, and I get it, but I'm like, Michael Mayer feels like he checks a lot of the boxes. Luke Musgrave isn't going to block anyone, but typically you're not drafting a tight end in round 1 to block someone.
Right.
And a name that I love and is a lot of fun to watch and is just scratching the surface is Darnell Washington out of Georgia. Now, Brock Bowers is the dude at Georgia, right? But you watch Darnell Washington, 6'7", 265-ish. He might run in the 4.7s, sub 4.7s next week.
Damn.
He is a huge middle-of-the-field catch guy, red zone guy, and he blocks like he's an offensive lineman, so he gives you that added benefit. And if you're the Bengals, you can use all the blockers you can take to help Joe Burrow because that offensive line, while they've restocked there, continues to struggle in terms of keeping Joe Burrow upright.
Yeah, they need help there.
Yeah. Thanks,
Ryan, hey, great stuff. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. You can check out his podcast. He is the draft expert on CBS. Terrific stuff. And if anything big happens from the draft combine next week, we hope we can pick up the phone and call you because I know your eyes are going to be peeled.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Great,
Good
really
stuff.
good job.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
really good job. I think if you're Smith and Jigba, you've got to run.
He has to
That's
run.
all
He's
it
got to
is.
do something.
He has to run.
He got to show health, and he got to show that he's pretty fat. Because it's a couple
What's
of
he
times
hoping
got
to run if you're him? Like
4.4.
4.4.
4.4. You go ahead and get your suit ready because you
Wait,
for
he
sure.
runs, he can run a 4.4?
Depending on technique.
Well, it's all technique based because coming out, nobody thought that Tyvis Powell would run a 4.4. But if you take your
Just referred
training,
to himself in the first person.
if you take your training serious like Tyvis Powell did, never miss a day, always show up and be ready with
Sniffle
a
or
positive attitude.
Did you go to Arizona?
No, I went to Exos in Pensacola.
All right,
Shout
Florida.
out to them. Yeah.
Hey, you know what was always stuffed in the cabinets at Exos Pensacola?
I do.
Built Bars.
Built Bars.
That is what made Tyvis Powell the elite
He was
athlete.
a 4.9
Not only
before he
he
started
was,
eating Built Bars.
but he still is. He still eats Built Bars every day. He
I
tells
sure
me.
do.
He comes in here, houses one before he sits down for the show, and Tyvis, even with his NFL money, uses promo code LOCKDOWN15 for 15% off at Built.com. They are delicious, nutritious, and the official power bar of Tyvis Powell.
Sean Kruta in the chat says he loves the Bengals coverage. That's a good one, Sean.
All right, we've got a couple minutes before we bring in
Is
DeQuell.
somebody going to really get offended by one
Let's bring him in.
question?
We'll do the thing after.
Okay.
Respond to him that I think he's a loser for that comment.
DQ, what's up, my man?
What's up, fellas?
Hey, DQ, you know that the Ohio State women play Maryland soon, and basketball-wise, I'm willing.
Yes,
I'm willing to say that they're gonna take y'all down this time. You
Well,
tell
how
and
much
tell
are you willing
tell
to-
tell
We
can
Brad.
talk offline. How much are you
You
willing
can
to
tell
back them
Brad
against
that
Maryland?
his daughter's going down.
I think either.
Wow.
I think.
Listen,
by the way,
listen,
I think either team could beat the men's team at Ohio State
That's
right
a
now.
fact.
Yeah, that may be a fact. That may be a fact. But hey, I'm worried about Bull and G because I heard you had a little sniffle, so I went and got some simple saline for you and some.
You know what?
My son's
You know,
probiotic.
well, I'm glad. Guess what?
It helps him score.
He's going
Wait
to
a
get
minute.
us sick.
Wait a minute.
Well, he's going to get us sick. It's
DQ,
unbelievable.
I appreciate your level of concern, but I want to let you in on a little secret that I learned myself. They got this stuff. They got this stuff called topics now, so you don't gotta be bald. You can just get the topics, put it in your head, and your wife would think that you 21 again.
But you think I don't need any more hair? I'm good. I'm married. I'm locked in, baby. I'm good.
Same, but I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go.
well, take that hat off. Let's see.
What
Hey,
about
G,
it?
take his hat off.
What about it?
Okay.
Well, if
all
you
right,
have to
all
look
right.
down to show your hairline, that's not good.
I'm not showing the hairline.
You didn't bring it. You didn't put topics in there.
Well,
today,
Tyvus
did
is
you?
married
Shout out to
too,
your
though.
barber, man.
Shout out to your barber.
Look at that.
Hey, McNugget, see what you started. You started
Hey,
this.
hey,
McNugget.
hey,
I got a barber. I got a barber for you in Cleveland.
No, we
JT.
good. I'm good.
Okay,
Well,
all right.
you want to first? Do you know your butcher personally? Do you know your butcher?
My butcher.
Yeah.
You know what? I just got a butcher this past year. Yes, I do.
See?
Yes, I do.
See,
Yes, I
DeQuell
do.
knows his butcher.
Bull actually on
Yeah,
this show
yeah.
gave a shout out to his butcher.
I did not really my
Yeah, he
butcher,
did.
but
Yeah,
the
he did.
person who cut people who cut my cold cuts at the deli. There.
Yeah, the good steaks, the salmon, the fish, all that. You have to be in good graces with the people.
DeQuell's a man of the people, just like me. That's very simple.
But he didn't name drop him, DeQuell. He was like, shout out to I like my meat cut a certain way, not that thick stuff. Those are for losers. Losers only get cut.
No, he goes. Losers only eat roast beef that's not rare.
Right. You got to eat. Does anybody here eat roast beef or like any meat that's not rare?
No, you got it. No, who's eating well done roast beef? It's always
no. I didn't say well done roast beef.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. People, if you eat well done meat, roast beef, any kind of steak, that's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Yeah,
I mean, just throw a hockey puck on the grill and eat that. You cook the flavor right out of it. When
my wife, for one birthday a few years ago, my wife was making prime rib for dinner, right? Yeah. And I like especially prime rib. That's got to be rare, super rare.
I'm with you.
And one of my friends was over for dinner. I love him, greatest guy. But he's like, "Can you make one of them for me? Well done." I was like,
"You kick him out."
Well done. And of all the meats, prime rib is like the last one. I wouldn't eat any meat well done. But prime rib.
Did you make it for him?
We did because he's a good friend.
Wow.
He's like a brother almost, really.
So I have a niece that goes to school at Howard, and she maybe two years ago, we would take her out to dinner, and we try to fine dine her and show her some different places to eat because we love to eat. And we had the same situation, Bull. We go to this Michelin star place. She orders a steak, and she says, "Well done." Oh. And I had to excuse the waiter for a second because I didn't want to embarrass my niece. I'm like, because you're not paying for this, let's try something a little different. So and she wouldn't budge. She wouldn't budge. I'm like, let's try something else. Let's not waste
medium
well done piece of meat that I'm gonna have to pay for. Let's try something different. But people
wasn't
what they love.
Yeah, I mean,
kids today. By the way, DeQuell, how tall is your son? Because he seems really tall.
He's like in the probably 90 percentile in terms of height right now.
Wow.
But he's big, man.
How old is he?
He's 4. He'll be 5 in November.
Yeah, because we were looking yesterday because Aditi was on yesterday, and we were looking at that picture of Aditi. I think was holding him.
It was, yeah.
And it was like he was almost as big as she was. I know she's really tiny. But he was like as big as she was. It seemed like.
No. Before she picked him up, I'm like, listen, be careful. He's solid. So he's a good probably 45 pounds right now. We weigh each other every now and again, but he's a dense kid. He's probably a head taller than all of his classmates right now.
Wow.
But he's got some aunts that are 6'3", 6'4". Christina comes from a tall family. She's 5'9". So her mother's tall. Yeah. So hopefully he gets. I don't want to be taller than me because then we might have an issue.
I want my son to be taller than me. I want him to be like 6 feet.
You don't want his son being taller. It's a different couple genes in there. DeQuell might be getting.
Was your wife an athlete too?
Oh, absolutely not. No, not at all.
Wow.
She stumbles over her own feet. No,
that's
she's
okay
not
though, DeQuell, because my wife is 5'11" and 0 athleticism. I'm telling you, she can't vertical a phone book rather. A phone book. But she did contribute to Corey's height because I'm about 6'1.5". Corey's like 6'2", and I think he got that extra jolt from Tracy.
Okay.
So,
yeah, 5'11" is very tall.
He's going to get the brains from her. Sure.
DeQuell, we were sitting here having a conversation, and G. Bush brought up the fact that the Browns don't have any. What did you say? They don't draft, develop.
They've never drafted, developed, or put on the field a superstar wide receiver.
Who did you play with at wide receiver, and was they of that magnitude?
So Braylon was there, but we all know that was he ascended very quickly, and then things just kind of.
I threw his name out there.
But I would also say, and I heard the segment you guys talking about it, I would actually throw. I mean, would you consider him a receiver? But I would say Josh Cribbs. He was the guy who did it all. I mean, he was here forever.
Well,
he was a great player, but he wasn't a great receiver.
Yeah, I would count him as a player.
He just did everything.
Yeah, in my tenure, I can't think of one other than Braylon and Kellen Winslow. If you want to throw him in the mix,
can you count?
But they didn't sustain those guys. They had the talent.
No, Joe Vicious was there, but it wasn't like a homegrown drafted. A guy who was homegrown. You always had to go out and get him out of free agency.
By the way, we got some breaking news. One of DeQuell's teammates is going to be one of your former teammates. Who?
He played with Bubba Ventrone, too.
Oh, no, but we'll get to him in a second. But one of your former teammates is going to be joining us for the first time ever on the show Monday. He went to the Pro Bowl twice.
Should have been more than that.
He was a great Browns player for a very long time.
No, he's a legend is what he is.
Joe Hayden.
No.
Joe Hayden.
No, we haven't had Joe yet. We got to get Joe Hayden on.
This guy's a legend. We haven't had nobody replace him yet.
In my prime, I could have probably beaten him up.
Phil Dawson.
Yes. Phil Dawson.
Phil Dawson.
Phil Dawson.
Phil Dawson.
Oh, man. I have a framed jersey of Phil Dawson in the room next to me and his cleats when he became like the all-time scoring champion.
That's nice.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
He gave it to
That's
you.
Hall of Fame style.
Well, I asked for. I respected kickers, Tybus. Unlike you, I respected everyone.
So wait a minute. I'll let you know that I had the best relationship with every
Terry
kicker that I've ever had, except for maybe one in college.
Do you got some cleats?
No.
Do you have cleats?
I
have
didn't ask
footballs.
him for- I didn't ask
cleats.
him for-
I have
The
framed
only-
jerseys
the-
of kickers
The only
in my house right now.
The only kicker's cleats that I would have ever asked for was either Robbie Gold's or Adam Vinatieri's. That's the only two.
Let me show you something really quick. Hold on.
All right, stand by.
Robbie Gould.
Do we have
Good
elevator
as
music?
gold.
Hey, man, I really feel like when you
Look at this
And
man.
this wasn't planned.
Look at this.
This was not planned. What did I say?
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Adam Vinatieri.
That's pretty sweet.
I mean, y'all
He
were
gave me
team.
this.
Yeah.
That is
I asked
awesome.
That's sweet.
Tyus, what you got?
I respect my teammates, Tybus.
I'm glad you do. So listen, as long as we're talking special teams.
What is wrong with him? Why are you in so much competition with
flawed.
me?
You're
Oh, I
flawed.
know the next line, but we're not allowed to say it.
flawed
But we're not
I'm flawed. Name me your special teams coordinators.
Oh no, I didn't like my special.
See
teams
that?
coordinators.
Flawed.
Well, he didn't play
Flawed.
special
Wasn't it Tabor?
Flawed. So what?
Wasn't it Tabor here?
Tabor, I like Tabor,
Don't
but
give
the
me
one
no
before him,
hints.
Jerry Rossberg. Jerry Rossberg.
I know mine.
Me and that guy, we never saw eye to eye. He said some disrespectful things to me out of his mouth as a rookie, and I tell you what, it took 3 or 4 guys to hold me back because at that moment I needed some boxing gloves. We were gonna go after.
Wow.
And from that moment, he respected me, and we kept it cordial. Like, listen, keep it football. It's all good, but when you start to dive into my personal life and all this other crap, I got a problem. Oh, Jerry was brutal, man.
Did the Browns make the right move in moving on from Prefer? And Ventrone. Now, we're putting the cart before the horse. He doesn't have the job yet. There's another candidate.
Right.
The Giants' assistant special teams coach is a candidate. But tell us your thoughts on the move and how they should proceed going forward. Yeah,
I don't understand what took it so long.
Yeah.
I don't understand what move was made recently that you didn't already know when the season was over. I just don't understand the timing of it all. But in the end, he's gone. And I think Bubba, as you see on the screen, he was probably one of, outside of Pat McAfee, he's probably Josh Cribbs, he's probably the best special teams player I ever played with. The guy was tough, strong, physical. He was great in every phase, punt return, punt team, kickoff return, kickoff. He taught me a lot of what I needed to do on kickoff return when I was a young boy, young pup playing in the league. So he's always had a ton of respect from all of us. And Joe Hayden, I know he loves Bubba, and he went on. I mean, it's no surprise that he's in the position he's in right now, and to have a homegrown guy, a guy who's familiar with Cleveland, come back, have a chance to coach this team. I'm quite sure he's going to reach out to Josh Cribbs because those two, they had a connection when we played. We had some of the best special teams units in the league on a 4-12 team. So I think this is definitely a great, if he's able to get the job, I think it'll be a great hire because Bubba means a lot to the city, and he's just a great guy in all.
Are you saying you think he might try to get Josh to be his assistant?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
That'd be cool.
I would not be surprised if he would reach out, if he were to get the job.
Josh has dabbled in it. Josh did an internship with the Browns a couple of years ago, and I had spoken with him about it afterwards when he decided to move on. But I think Josh had a tweet around the college football all-star season where he may have been a special teams coach for one of those college all-star games.
Oh, really?
He was.
Okay, yeah.
It was the NFLPA.
And
I coached it in a couple years.
The NFL, you're right. And when I saw that, I thought maybe he wants to get back in it.
When you coached, how was the linebackers? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, we had fun, man. We had fun. And actually, one of the guys played for the Browns.
Really? What was that? What was his name?
I can't. His name is slipping my mind right now, but I have his name in my phone. Hey, don't do this, Ty. Don't do
I
this.
just asked the question. I'm just asking a question. That's
All
all.
right,
I'm
Listen,
sorry.
listen, my linebacker crew, I still keep in touch with a bunch of them. So I didn't just, once I left them, I didn't just drop them to the side because once we create that bond, it's forever. But I can't think of his name right now.
Well, I'm curious. Do you, when you were a player, did it matter to you whether or not the coach actually played in the NFL? Did that factor in? I mean, I know there's some good coaches who didn't, but did it mean, especially when you initially met the guy, maybe, did it mean more? Did he have a more benefit of the doubt if he played?
At the end of the day, does it help? Does it give you instant credibility? Yes, but did it matter? What mattered to me was, do you know the game? Do I think I can get better by listening to you?
Right.
Yeah.
If I didn't think you could help my career and you teach me something, I learned something, how to play the position a little bit better, then I didn't care who you were, man, woman, whatever. If you can get me better and get me paid, I'm all ears. And I've been around other guys who, had all the credentials in the world and we didn't click. And I'm the easiest person to, listen, I want to play well. I want to do all the things right. But I think in some cases, if you have a young team and if you're devoid of talent, or not talent, but leadership in certain places, like the Browns, for instance, you need a guy who can capture the ear of these players right away to get your message through. Because, listen, a lot of young players want to do well, but if they're not led correctly, then what do you really have? You have a collection of talent that is headed nowhere. So it's a segue into Jim Schwartz. I think that's why they went and got a guy like him on the heels of Woods being fired. You need a guy who understands players, who understands the psyche of a player and how to motivate them. And I think this is what this team needed defensively, because you have a collection of talent and you don't have a sole outspoken leader in that locker room.
DeQuell, I'm gonna ask you a question. This is a money question too, man. This is kind of philosophical. I just thought about it when Bull said something. Do you believe there will be the first, which will happen first, the first minority black-owned NFL team, or the first woman head coach?
Head coach?
Wow. And do you think, and even when the first woman head coach, do you think that's possible? And if so, what year?
That's a great question. What will come first? I think ownership will probably come first.
Yeah, I think we're close to minority owner.
I think we really are.
Yeah, we're close
Yeah.
there.
What about majority owner, though? How about
No. I was scared with Trotter because you got to have, when you said, now Jay-Z got money. Don't get me twisted. But when you say you have to have $1 billion in cash
To
put
not
down,
Well, I looked into Jay-Z. Jay-Z's net worth is exactly 30% of the average cost of an NFL team right now. So I would wipe him out.
I would say right now is probably the most. Right now, as a culture, black people have the most money we've ever accumulated, right? And you have to think, hell, my grandparents were on the field. So we're not too far removed from having generational money. So right now is the most money we've ever been able to accumulate. So I do think it'll happen before we see a woman head coach. And I do think that is possible. I do think that is around the corner, because the Browns, for instance, they have an assistant GM who's a woman and that's climbing up the ranks. And with the Browns, for instance, they don't get a lot of credit for having a lot of black and brown people work for this organization. They've done it for many, many years, and I think we don't talk enough about it. So it's an interesting question. It's a great question to bring up, but I think there will be probably a majority black owner before we see a woman head coach, in my opinion, right now.
I agree with that. It is, obviously there's been prejudice against women in sports. There's no reason in theory that, what's the difference between a woman who obviously hasn't played in the NFL and a man who hasn't played in the NFL being a coach? There really should be no difference. It's all about how much you work. The problem is men are chauvinistic, not all men, but men are chauvinistic, and getting over that, there'll always be some guys that will have a bad attitude about it. I do think we're going to see a woman head coach in the NBA in the next decade.
Oh, for
no
sure.
I think that's happening.
No doubt.
You're right. And there's a GM in baseball. The GM of the Marlins is a woman.
I think when Pop leaves San Antonio, they're going to hire a woman.
Becky
Hammons.
Becky Hammons.
Ain't she with the Aces now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicking
And she
ass.
makes $1 million a year, which, as of when she signed, was the next highest coach salary in WNBA was $250,000.
I think
Well,
you would
that
have
whole
to wait
market is
50.
kind of-
You have to wait 50 years.
By the way, we're all
60
going
years.
I'm going to get a bunch of tweets saying that we're all too woke by saying a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. We're going to get accused of
Here's the
being
thing. I'm not
too
saying
woke.
I would never say that a woman
Especially
should
in
be a head
today's
coach in the
climate.
NFL. I would never say that a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. Here's what I would say: if there is a woman who is among the most 32 qualified to be a head coach in the NFL, then she should be a head coach.
Agreed.
But I'm not going to say, well, we got to do it because she's a woman.
Agreed, Jay. But we all say that. We all say the same thing about black coaches. You know, as long as they're one of the third. In a perfect Nirvana world, the 32 best people for the jobs would get the jobs.
You're right.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, it does not. As
It
we've
never
seen.
works that way.
But yeah, to say that a woman should be a head coach in the NFL.
No, nobody. I don't think anybody's saying that. But I
No.
think.
No, you
there's-
said that we're going to get grief because you said a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. And I don't think that's what we're saying.
No, but there's just the fact that we're talking about it. There'll be
Yeah.
some people complaining.
Well, listen, it's
But-
coming. The Browns have
Right.
Kelly. She's the assistant wide receiver coach, or is she the wide receiver coach?
Assistant.
She assistant. 'Cause
Yeah.
She's the
Chad
assistant
O'Shea
wide receiver.
was-
So she's not the head wide receiver coach,
no.
but she's in the
And
room.
Jay, I'll add this point, and especially in today's climate of football. Yeah, when I entered the league, if you asked me that same question, I would have gone a completely different route. Now the woman is just a different climate. Now the
Right.
climate in the locker room has changed, and it's more open and progressive. So yeah, I do think at some point, and I agree with you. We're not saying that a woman should, but the best 32 candidates should be hired. And we can go back and forth about the debate about black coaches as well. And I'll say this about that point: I think we get so caught up in having the imagery is important, right? But I think a lot of people have to realize it shouldn't take a black person to hire another black person.
No, it should not.
It's got to be all inclusive. So I just wanted to drop that one point home in terms of the coaches or what have you.
On that point, DeQuell, I'm curious your answer, Tyvis, to this as well. As a player, was it talked about in the locker room? Like, was it an open conversation about how black coaches were not getting the same opportunities in general?
Yes.
As white coaches? Is that something that's talked about?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Because we all know a lot of guys who we played with who we knew if they decided to pursue coaching, they were going to be really great coaches. But again, it's hard to break into that fraternity of that coaching cycle. And unfortunately, it's still work in progress. And yeah, it was definitely a topic of conversation when, there's millions of guys who played this, a lot of guys who played this game at a high level that can go coach. And, for whatever reason, they don't decide to pursue it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think society is always a little more progressive in terms of what we think is possible. But when you got 32 teams and that's the elite fraternity, like sometimes we're a little naive. Like you got to realize that they talk to each other and they say, "Hey, listen, that's nice. We want to say that, but let's be real. That's not gonna happen." And that's just the reality of the situation. It's like that in corporate America. Once you get to the elite of the elite, you gotta be ushered in. They gotta wrap their arms around you, and you have to think if there was a woman that was a coach, that would move the earth. That would shake. We don't shake some stuff up. Like they're just now getting around to being comfortable saying we're gonna have an African American coach, right? But when you talk about moving and it changes the perception of what you even think about the league, right? You would actually have to change the way that certain people think at a fundamental level for them to even accept it.
Right.
And it's not the people, the fans.
Yeah.
It's ownership.
Because I guarantee you there are a lot of men out there. When I made the statement that in theory, what's the difference between a woman being a coach and a man who didn't play? Obviously, guys who played, there's been no women that have played in the NFL, obviously. But a man who did not play professionally, and a woman, what's the difference?
Well, the difference, I think the difference is, like, you could say, well, okay, Bill Belichick. Well, Bill Belichick played collegiate football. All these guys played collegiate football at a pretty high level. Even
did they all?
Well,
they all played collegiate, but they
and a lot of them played in their Ivy leagues and were all conference. So but now
so what's
the women's league?
Yes.
Now,
so
if you're talking about somebody that's never ever played the game of football, but that's a coach,
you'll have pushback on that, whether man or woman.
At the highest level, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But what's the difference? Like, they didn't all play
right?
at high levels. Some of them played D3. Some of them played.
Long as you
still played though,
Yeah, you played.
Right. If you
play
tell
D3,
me
you're
a
a good
guy
player.
off the street, if you tell me a guy off the street who never played the game ever,
no,
yeah, that's pushback.
But a lot of the women but all the women that are going into coaching now played some level of football. There's women's professional leagues.
Honestly, there's not a lot of women that are going into coaching.
No, there aren't, but the few that are have played.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
It's fascinating to me. I would even say just the sight of seeing a woman with the call sheet, like making those crucial plays.
I think that would happen.
In the crunch time. Like, because to me, if there's anything more, I guess, inspirational, or there's anything more that I would think about and be like, wow, you could be, because we tell people you could be anything in this world. You could be anything you want to be. They was lying back in the 70s and 80s when they came up. You cannot be anything you want to be.
And in truth, that's still a lie now.
That's still a lie.
Like, I love LeBron James, but when LeBron James goes to his school in Akron and tells the kids, you can do what I've done, they can't.
No.
You can't. That's not the truth.
It's not for everybody.
LeBron was 6'8", 260, built like a locomotive with unbelievable God-given talent.
And an unbelievable work ethic.
And he had the perfect package.
Yeah.
So I'm always careful not to use that phrase because I can look around the average fourth grade class and I can tell you a lot of those kids aren't going to be pro athletes.
Well,
so
you can do most things, not everything.
Within reason.
Yeah.
Now there are physical limitations that people will have.
Yeah.
I can't be no fire pilot. You can't be
a race car driver.
I can't go to NASA. I can't just fly rocket ships.
Why can't you?
I'm too big.
Physical limitations.
Well,
they
but
have
when you were
size
a
requirements.
kid, that might not have been the case.
Well,
it's a size.
Well, he was this size in the 6th grade.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, probably just big. But here's the thing. I will say this. I will say that I think it will be closer. It's closer to basketball. I think basketball is a different sport. Football is, I guess, is something where, it's just the politics of football are different. Basketball, good shot. Basketball, though, women have been playing basketball. The game is still the same.
That's why we'll see a woman head coach in the NBA.
You can pass, you can dribble. It's the same game.
Yep,
right?
it is the same game. And I think we will see a woman head coach in the NBA.
And by the way, what's her name? Mendoza, right?
Jess Mendoza.
She covers baseball. And the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, this is new. And then you realize, no, it's the same game.
The Cubs the Cubs in their minor system have a woman pitching coach.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Now that's interesting.
That is.
System, yeah.
Very
Tyvus raising his hand.
Oh no, that's
he's holding his pose because he made a water bottle shot.
You remember on Love and Basketball when Monica hit her shot and she just posed? That's where I'm at.
I thought you were doing the Wesley Snipes and White Man
Oh
Can't
yeah,
Jump.
it's pretty. It's so pretty. Well, Jay missed and I just all netted mine. So
that sounded
take
terrible.
a picture.
That proves he's a better water bottle shooter than me for sure.
ATL.
You know that was a game. So I was gonna say that was a game in training camp, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh man, you can win and lose a lot of money shooting balls of tape.
Yeah,
or
balls of
anything at the
tape.
trash can.
Balls of
I
tape.
won
Did you
$20 bills playing that game. Trust
The
me.
Bucks always used to do this game where they would get on the 20-yard line and try to throw footballs into the trash can that were in the end zone. And I'll tell you who was best at it out of everybody was Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp was sick at that.
Yo,
he looks like a dead man.
They don't do that. Not what they do is they do the stand at the 50 and try to hit the crossbar.
Upright. Yeah, the crossbar.
Man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Woo!
To do now. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't know how hard it was till I tried it. We be out there.
So you lost your money?
No, I didn't bet no. See, I'm not going up against the quarterbacks. I'm not doing that. That's
silly. Yeah, that's silly. Oh my goodness.
Hey, listen.
I heard you guys.
I got a question for you before we let you go. We've been talking a lot about the draft, and we're trying to figure out here how to best go about it. They need D tackle. They need wide receiver. They also need some linebackers and some other things. But I think the two big areas of needs, wide receiver and defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. There's 3 ways to acquire talent. You can do it through trade. You can do it through free agency. You can do it through the draft. How should the Browns come into this draft? Is D tackle their biggest area of need, and do they try to attack that in the draft? And how should they go about wide receiver?
Yeah, I think wide receiver wise, I mean, we got free agency coming up, and I think unless you have I don't think they can find a difference maker at the receiver position at picking at the 43rd position. Not to say you can't, but I think right now in today's NFL, you can find receivers through free agency. I think that's the best route, and find someone you have to find someone. If you committed $230 million guaranteed to Deshaun Watson, he needs help. You look around this summer, who's everyone talking about? Lamar Jackson. Will he sign or won't he sign? And the weapons that he has. So you have to be able to get this guy some weapons. But again, the D tackle position, man, it's a toss-up. I mean, you look at last year's draft where there was an assertive effort to get D tackle help, and between Perion Winfrey and I forget the other guy's name, but they haven't shown up. So listen, is it a focal point? Yeah, I think in the draft you have to find. It's hard to find D tackles in free agency because those guys do not leave their organizations. If you have a Dominic, I can't even say his name.
Dominic Sue.
Dominic Sue, yes, or an Aaron Donald. Those guys don't leave the building, so you have to, find these guys in the draft, which we don't have a good track record of doing. But at this point, you have to take defensively. I'm gonna put a lot of weight on Jim Schwartz. I think the reason they went out and got this guy, they have some pieces they don't want to give up on. And how do we get these guys to play together, to play fast, to play smart, and who can galvanize these guys and light a fire up under their butt? Because I think last year a lot of these draft picks defensively, the D tackle position, it was a waste. We didn't see what it was a waste. All we know was Myles Garrett able to rush off the edge, and in the interior there was nothing, and the line, and then so forth and so all the holes throughout this defense. So I think, listen, with a second, third, or fourth round pick, 2 fourth-round picks, Andrew Berry has to get it right, and at the very least he has to find some difference makers in the draft, because right now, free agency is your best route to help this offense.
We say it's a prove-it year for Stefanski. It's a prove-it year for Andrew Berry, too, and he's got to make some moves that strengthens those areas of need.
By the way, I'm sure DeQuell knows this because he did it, but I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show. I want to see if these guys know the answer. DeQuell had 1 pick 6 as a member of the Browns. Who was the quarterback he picked off for that pick 6?
Tom Brady.
I definitely know this. No.
Yeah, I figured you did. It is not Tom Brady.
Peyton Manning.
It is not Peyton Manning.
No.
Carson Palmer.
I'll give you a clue. He was a lefty.
Oh, wow.
He was
Michael Vick.
Mark Brunell.
Michael Vick?
Mike got it. Michael Vick.
Michael Vick. And you talk about coaching. Oh, yeah, you talk about coaching. Billy Davis, who you've heard me talk about on this show, he was with the Arizona Cardinals. He was another guy who didn't play at the highest level, but he was one of the smartest coaches ever been around. He knew coverages. And all week long, we would cover 2 defense. He would tell me, listen, 5-step drop. If it's play action, he's throwing the ball, 2 yards outside of the hash, just run 12 to 15 yards down, 2.5 yards outside of the hash, he will throw it right to you. And every day in practice, I screwed it up. I'm like, this is not going to happen. Because in practice, they threw it right to me, no matter what. And I'm sure he paid the quarterback to throw it to me. And sure enough, the game happens. The same, I have a glimpse of, okay, this is the play that, that he's going to play action. There's a deep comeback. And literally, I did exactly what he said, caught it, intercepted it, did a flip in the end zone, hurt my ass. And then I ran to the sideline. And it was good joy. Good joy.
Okay. You shouldn't be doing that. Leave that to the
DTs. No. That was the last time I ever flipped. What would make me do a front flip? and I didn't land it. I landed on my ass. Man.
Yeah, you scored a touchdown, man. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
DeQuell Jackson, thanks, brother.
Thanks, DeQuell. See you next week.
I'm going to send you a few of these, man.
And I'm gonna send you some topics, so don't worry. We got a nice exchange going.
I use it in my beard.
There you go.
See you, DQ.
Thanks, DQ. That interview, by the way, with DeQuell Jackson was brought to us by BetJack. Hey, Ohio. Sports betting is now live. Download the BetJack app today so you can get in on all the action. BetJack, it is Ohio's sportsbook. Before we play True and False, Tyvis, you are the true special teamer on this panel. You played in the NFL, played on special teams. Mike Prefer is no longer here. While we have you here, because we can't do this another day without you, will you kind of give us an inside look at what makes a good special teams coach and what hopefully whoever the Browns bring in to replace Prefer can add to this team?
Yeah, so a good special teams coach to me, is one that, because, offense and defense is pretty serious. Special teams is one of those ones that usually they are the ones that got the most energy. So, like, for example, my time in Seattle and San Fran was, like, my favorite special teams because those two coaches, like, for Seattle, this is some classified information. For Seattle, they would have, like, the Nelly tip drill video. We'd be going crazy watching the videos. All the music is blasting and stuff like that. But it was fun. So it made you, like, engaged. And the thing that people don't realize about special teams is special teams really fundamentally helps you at whatever position group you play in. So, for example, I hated KR. But it wasn't until I had a special teams coordinator like B. Schneid's in Seattle or HT in San Fran that was like, listen, you mad at you don't want to show the energy to do special teams, but do you know on KOR it's essentially you doing middle field post plays? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said when you run it through the post, you got to run to the post, flip your hips, drop, and backpedal back. Guess what you do on KR? You got to sprint back 20 yards, flip your hips, backpedal, and pick up your block. And I said, that's right. So to me, special teams is very important. And if you get a coach that comes in there and explains it to them and the fact that, hey, not only is you going to be good on special teams, this is going to help you actually be good at your position, then that's when you'll excel at it. But until people get that mindset or have a coach that comes in and instills that mindset, these players are not – they're just going to look at it like, oh, it's just regular special teams. So I think that a good special teams coach understands how special teams ties into how players can become better at their respective positions. And until they get that, then the special teams will be what it is.
I like that, though.
I wonder if special teams coaches are also popular because there's a lot of the guys that play on special teams are not going to have as big an ego as the stars on offense and defense.
So they're easier to coach.
They're probably easier to coach.
Yeah, they're all climbing, they're ascending the mountain.
Right.
And they're working harder.
Well,
Yes.
And it's an energy play, right?
That's
it's an
the
energy
thing.
unit.
When you become, if you're not the starter, special teams develops you into becoming that guy. So when you make plays on special teams, your coach, your position coach notices that. And your special teams coach is the one that goes to bat for you 98% of the time.
Make the roster,
like
right?
this guy right here, I need him on this team.
Wow.
So he's going to save you from getting cut to begin with. But if you're making plays on special teams, your DB coach or your whatever position coach looks at that and say, let's get him in on offense and defense because he looks like he's ready to play now. So it really shows that it serves as a developmental thing.
Right.
If it's that important, why don't you believe teams draft for special teams?
They do. You literally have special team core guys. Every team, I said this last year with the Browns. I don't know who on the Browns is. When you look at the Browns, who is your special core guy? Yeah. Every team has at least 3 guys that's solely special teams. Like Matthew Slater, solely special teams. Like you need guys like that. Nate Ebner, solely special teams. We don't have guys like Josh Cribbs was that guy. Yeah. But we don't have guys like that anymore. No. People don't take pride in special teams like they used to. They think it's just another play. Special teams is nothing but one play where you give full energy, 100% effort because you only get one play. So go out there and give it everything, and if you do that, I promise you'll make more plays than not. Plus, your one play can be the difference in the game.
No doubt.
Shout out to Steve Tasker.
And one last thing, Tyvis, on that before we move on. DeQuell talked about Bubba Ventrone being one of the best special teams players he's ever played with in his decade-long career in the NFL. For a guy to have that on-field experience coming in potentially to the Browns, how does it translate from what he did on the field to as a coach? Because his special teams unit in Indianapolis was top 5 in the league this year.
Well, how would it translate is obviously given a guy who's played it, he'll be able to instill that energy. And having the resume that, hey, my special teams was top 5 in the NFL last year, that automatically gives you credibility. Yeah. Because we stunk last year. We want to be better. But you got to find the guys that want to make the difference. And until they do that, we're stuck in the boat anyway. So he'll go out there and he'll weed those guys. He'll find that third-string corner that may not be getting play time on the field. Hey, come play special teams and be a star. Make this city remember your name. You can be solely beloved if you just give it 100% effort on special teams. You go down there on punt return, make a big play. You go down on kickoff, make a big hit, or you become a great returner. This city would love you. This city is ready to get behind anybody that's willing to give their 100% effort. And everybody on this panel knows that.
Yeah, especially Cleveland. We're a gritty city. We want you to work your ass off.
That's
we
it.
want you to be Josh Cribbs, Bubba Ventrone.
You don't have to be the 100 touchdown scorer. No. You don't have to be the quarterback or the receiver.
You can set the tone for your offense or defense.
And there's a lot of guys like that. Like nobody, like fans of the LA Rams didn't know who Bubba Ventrone was, but Browns fans did, right? Like, and every team has, like, there's a few guys that become famous for special teams, but mostly it's guys that only that fan base knows that guy.
Right, you're right.
And it's important, obviously.
All right, who's our subject for True or False?
It is time to play True and False. The next 25 minutes of the show are dedicated to the Guardians.
Yes.
Oh, Lord.
And today's True and False candidate is none other than Terry Francona.
Oh, Tito.
The head man, the boss. We had to dig deep for some of these to find some that I don't think.
Let me give you my parlay.
Okay.
J. Bull, G. Bush.
Yeah, you see, but
my 3-leg parlay.
Mostly these questions have nothing to do with their careers.
We'll
They're
see.
like random dopey
But
statistics.
y'all just know that.
In the 8th grade, his teacher's name was Mrs. Dinwiddie.
Wait a minute.
True or false?
Has me and G. Bush ever lost a football player?
Yes, plenty of times.
Yeah,
Terry Francona picked his ass 5 times in the dugout in 2021. No, it was actually 4 times.
Wait, did you see my first question? That was literally it. You guys ready?
Yeah,
ready.
Scoreboard ready. Steve, punch it up. True or false? Tito's middle name is James.
James.
I have no idea.
We were always friends.
Easy money.
Since our childhood days. Then we made our plans. Then we went and go our special way.
What is wrong with you, man?
Bull says false. G says false. J says false. Tyvis says true. This is a chance for Tyvis to take the early lead, except his middle name is John, not James. That is false.
I got my parlay looking good right now.
Tyvis in the hole early.
My parlay.
Tito is part of, he's probably one of the baseball apostles.
He is.
See,
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I can't believe you
that was
wrote
cold.
that on the board.
That was cold. That was cold.
You are
Like
sick,
that.
not ill.
Question number 2. Francona was a first-round pick by Montreal in the 1980 MLB Draft.
I have no idea.
That's crazy. I don't even know if it was the Expos back then.
Jay feels confident on this one.
I have no idea.
He's got the confident smirk. True, true, true. And G. Bush says false. The answer,
It's true.
it is true.
Yep.
It is true. Jay,
Don't blow my parlay,
Bull,
G.
each with 2.
He would have been a
G,
much better player had he not had
Each at
knee
one.
issues. Tito.
Good pinch
Not have
hitter.
issues.
Knee issues.
How old is
Fact.
Tito?
He's got to be 64-ish, maybe.
I feel like in his, like the 80s.
80s. I'm like, you got drafted in the 80s.
The 80s was the decade of like the standout pitch hitter. I feel like we don't have those guys anymore.
No, we don't. You're
You
right.
had Tito,
Yeah.
right? You had Lenny Harris.
You remember there
You
was
had
a,
Rusty Staub, who's a great pitch hitter.
Elvira Espinosa.
there was a guy.
have those guys
no,
anymore.
I was going to say the Indians had, but he was great with the bases loaded. Pat Tabler.
Pat Tabler.
His average with the bases loaded
Yes,
was
Pat Tabler.
insane.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Question number 3. Terry Francona was born in South Dakota. True or false?
So
How would I know this?
So let me. I'm just. Let's hold on. Let me just throw this out here. Let me just throw this out
Jay's
here.
confident again.
No. Let me just throw this out here. This is a freaking layup. You handed this man a layup on today. You do know this guy knows Terry Francona personally.
So?
You do know that he's been to his house.
That's what I'm saying.
They shared dinner together.
I don't know where you were born. I'd guess Canton.
You see what I'm saying? This man is intimately involved with Terry Francona and everything Tito.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this
That's
ain't
crazy.
They felt
Jay
bad
says
for
false.
He's still going to win.
Everyone says false. So either his bio's lying, or you guys are all silly because the answer, according to his bio, is true.
I was gonna say. I think he was born in North Dakota.
No, he was born in South Dakota.
The difference between North Dakota and South Dakota is
One word.
yeah, one word.
I hope
that's
you didn't
it.
get
I mean,
these
they're all
answers from the
blobs together.
WKYC article.
Bismarck.
No, this is from the Cleveland Guardian's official bio of Terry Francona.
I don't know.
I thought it was. I really did think that it was the other Dakota.
No, it was South Dakota.
Okay.
It was South Dakota. He has several
They
South
should
Dakota
just
high
make it
school
one
records.
Dakota.
South
Yeah.
Dakota.
We
Merge
need two
them.
Dakotas.
Yeah, do we need the division?
I think Pierre is the capital of
North
South
Carolina,
Dakota.
South Carolina.
Bismarck.
I thought Bismarck is North Dakota.
It is. Bismarck is North Dakota. Pierre is South Dakota.
There you go.
We'll do a geography test one day on the
I love
show.
capitals.
That'd be fun.
I
All
do too.
state capitals.
Make it.
Question
don't let
number
it be a
4.
wheel.
All right.
Tyvis, this is a baseball question right up your alley. Francona is the only manager in Major League history to win his first 8 consecutive World Series games.
Man, this is no. Stop it. He swept one of them.
G says false. Tyvis says false.
What? You don't know the answer?
Well,
Jay says
I
false,
think
and
it's-
Bull says true, which means one way or another we're having a new leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And the leader is Adam the Bull.
Of course he is.
God, I don't remember.
I don't remember
knew
this.
he
These
swept
guys,
out.
Tyvis and G are whining about Jay, and I know a thing or two.
Jay
about
has
that.
had a
said,
steak
I had
dinner
you second
under
place.
a candlelit rooftop moonlight atmosphere with Terry Francona.
It wasn't
and it's Adam the
moonlight.
Bull.
It wasn't moonlight.
They had dress shoes on too. You know
Jay
what?
wore his nicest off-brand Timbs for that dinner.
There is some truth that we may have. No, never mind.
By the way, I am probably one of the few people that has seen Terry Francona starstruck.
I thought you were going to say naked, and I was going to say,
No, I have not
Bull,
seen-
what the heck are you about
No,
to
no,
tell
Well,
us?
first of all, a lot of people have seen him naked. He's been in a baseball locker room for a million years. Guys walk around naked all the time.
Starstruck by whom?
When he met Michael Stanley, who I worked with at
Wow.
the Fan.
While you're going true no matter what on the next one?
Blind True.
Wow, he's usually right on those.
Hey, can we do a? If we do a, is this worth more?
This would be the one that I know.
Is this a blind? Is this blind?
What's
true
the
worth
standings
2
right
points?
now?
No,
guys.
after 4 questions, Bull has 3, Jay has 2, Tyvis and G each have 1.
Oh, wow.
I just need
So
you.
if we go blind,
You blew my parlay.
if we
If
go,
you go blind,
Not
it
yet.
does not count.
No
Because it's already a
bonus. If we
blind
go
guess
blind, can we
anyway,
get
even if you know the question.
No bonus.
no bonus. Okay.
No bonus.
Changing the rules here. Come on, let's go.
Question number
Trying to
5.
get extra points.
I tried it.
Francona won college baseball's Golden Spikes Award
Oh,
at
that's
Arizona
that's
in 1980.
false. Oh man.
I think there's a lot of good players that came out in 80.
No, he was drafted in '80, so there's
No,
no.
he was. Yeah.
So there's no way.
Yeah, the season ends and then he got drafted. Yeah, could very
nah.
well be true.
Hey man,
Yep.
G. Bush says false.
I'm just keep going false.
Everyone else says true, and the answer, Tyvis, I hate the fact that you're now 6 for 6.
I know, every time he does it, he gets it right.
This is obnoxious.
Every time he does. I tried to throw him off by saying there were a lot of good players that came out in 1980.
I don't like that at all.
That's weird that I am 100% at that.
Do it again then.
I'm cool.
Do it again.
Nope. For what? It's only good for one time, one episode.
Next question. The most home runs Francona ever hit in a single season of his professional career.
Yeah.
You mean
was
of his
5.
major league career?
Major League
Major
career,
League.
yes. Major League career was 5.
We'll just keep rolling with it.
False, false, false. Bull says true. If Bull gets this,
I can't catch him.
you can't catch
Because
him.
I think there's just one left, right?
There is one left.
Yeah.
Let's see it, Steve. No, there's 2 left. Excuse me.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, wow.
Yes,
I think
sir.
he had 7 one year.
No.
3?
3.
Okay, 3. I knew it was low.
3.
I knew it was a very small
That's
number.
just a terrible question.
You got it right, Bull.
No, he didn't.
No, he
No,
didn't.
I said
sorry.
true.
Bull's just saying he got it wrong. It's a
It's
great.
just
No.
like
What's the standings?
There's
We're
2
tied.
questions
hate
left.
that question.
We're tied. You're 1 down. You're 2 down, and I think
I'm out.
G. Bush is in last. G. Bush cannot catch
Yeah.
anybody.
G.
Bull
Bush
and
is
Jay
in
are
last.
tied at 4 apiece. Tyvis has 3.
Go ahead.
Question
Lock
number
it in.
7.
No, I'm not doing that.
All 4 of Tito's kids played collegiate sports.
Collegiate sports.
Of any kind.
Of any kind.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I don't think they let his kids sit at the crib.
What was the question? Because I didn't even.
All
Four of his kids played collegiate sports.
Collegiate. Ooh, that's tough. You ain't got genes like that.
Tyvis says true.
True.
We have 2 trues, 2 falses, but I want to read G. Bush's. Hit that like button for your boy, please. That is true, even though his answer is false. The correct answer to this question is false.
Yeah,
3 of his 4 played
one of them
collegiate
didn't.
athletics.
I knew one of
of
them
them
did
went
not.
straight to the Naval Academy.
You are correct.
Because
Yeah.
Jay actually drove them to college.
I helped move him in.
His
It's
first
Jay has the best-
Indianapolis.
Tito,
With
he
the-
moved them in.
And
With those
Indianapolis.
type of questions, Jay's
So
got a
what's
big
the?
advantage.
So you
Alright.
lost or won?
So coming down to the final question,
Too many personal questions.
I won.
This better not be another
Jay
personal
has
question.
I have a 2.
a 1-point lead over
Oh,
Bull.
okay. So this.
Heading into the final question.
Okay, so we could tie. I kind
This-
of want overtime.
This last question, for the
hilarious.
record,
Overtimes are fun.
No, they're
this
not.
last question came from MLB.com.
False.
His bio. Do not question anything about it. This is directly from the Cleveland Guardians website.
False.
Steve, take it.
Giving hints with that comment, I don't like it.
Terry Francona is a big fan of the band Imagine Dragons.
They ain't had an album in years.
Can you see Tito jamming out?
No,
the
wait a
monitor?
minute. No, wait a
In the
minute.
dugout?
Wait, no.
Mikey, you're talking too much over there.
I'm
I
trying to
don't
get
like
in their
it.
head,
You're
Bull.
giving hints.
I'm trying to get in their head.
You're giving hints, and I'm very upset about that. Damn it.
You know what, G? You've been wrong on all of these except for this one.
You know,
He is a huge fan of Imagine Dragons, according to MLB.com.
Jay, you
Jay,
won.
I'm guessing that's not the music he played on your guys' intimate dinner at a
no,
rooftop?
it's not. It's not. I didn't know that's not even on our playlist.
I knew that because
I just assumed since he was a Michael Stanley fan.
Nah.
Yeah,
like
I was
old
trying to do
music.
that too. I'm like, I know some of the music he likes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit that
I-
genre.
So despite the fact
Yeah.
that Jay got the last question wrong, Jay, you are a champion today.
yeah,
Yep.
That
it
was
feels
You and your
good.
close personal friend,
It
Tito
feels good.
Francona.
It's good to get back in the win column.
It was tailor made for you.
I think I've got 11 wins now.
Please.
What is, Tyvis,
12,
how many points do you have?
He ain't.
No, I'm being Tyvis. Tyvis,
That
like, I
boy-
never lost one. That's been
That
a
boy ain't
football
never
player.
smelled. He ain't gonna never smell 11
Hello?
wins.
Hold on, we got a
Hold on.
caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
You're on
Paul,
the air.
is Paul D. Patel?
Nah, he busy right now.
It's Tito.
Yeah, he said.
Tell him I'll call him when I normally do at 1:30.
Reservations tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell him to text me where.
Dress
Yeah,
nice.
text-
Dress
text
nice,
him.
right?
They go Taylor.
I don't dress
They
nice.
felt so bad for you that they went and gave you a layup.
Bull, listen,
Good job out of you,
Bull
McMahon.
easily could have pulled that out.
I could have pulled it out.
Easily.
By the way, this is why. That's why it was funny. You're not gonna see 2 grown white men walking in nowhere with no dress shoes. they not wearing no.
Tito's going to pull up in his scooter.
They slide. He was like, what do you mean?
Now that he's got his scooter
Are you
back.
texting Tito right now?
Hard bottom.
Hold on here. I just want to let me see which one I want to go with. I'm trying to find the right image.
Well, Jay's looking for that.
Oh, here
Let
it
me-
is. Here
oh,
it is.
Jay found it. Okay.
Yeah, I got it. I think this is the one that I think kind of best encapsulates our relationship. If you can zoom in on that.
Yeah.
That's what he was telling me right there was he only hit 3 home runs. It was the most he's ever hit in
Yeah,
a
that's right.
single
These
season.
guys. This is what.
You
Here's
know
the
what?
thing.
You know what you should have asked them?
What?
You should have said, "What is some tips? Because I'm going up against this young stud, and I need to know
True or
how I'm gonna
false?
strike him out."
When is our date where I get to pitch
so let
to
me
you?
let me pull this.
By the way, why has Jay not gotten Tito on the show?
That's a good question.
I think we will when we go to spring training. We'll have an
All I
interview
know
with Tito.
is that last week
Rolodex.
on my birthday, I got a text message from Jay Crawford. He said happy birthday, and then it came with like 3 clips.
Nope. Now that's not true.
It came with you're right. 2 clips and a golf
No,
clip.
that's
So
not
it was-
true. The clips came after you started. He said, "Thank you. I'm still taking you deep."
He came with some clips, and
then
I
I
just want America to know.
Then I sent him a clip of me
Not-
throwing a fastball by a guy.
Not,
Yeah.
not the first clip. I'm not gonna lie, that one was good. The slider,
You're not touching my slider. That's my out pitch.
You going right over the fence.
Oh,
what's
I can't wait.
What's the dude
I
that won the
literally-
World Series for the Dodgers?
I cannot
Took
wait.
him over to Kirk Gibson.
It's a home run for Gibson.
around the
The
back.
Dodgers have won the game.
I can't believe what I just saw.
Hey, Bull's going to be the umpire for that, by the way.
Oh, you know what, Bull? You would make a great umpire.
Bull
on
would
that. I
make a
feel
great
like
umpire.
when we do our
Joe East.
next Halloween show, I do think Bull should be an umpire.
Joe East.
Make sure you
Joe East.
That's good.
I actually interviewed Joe West on a radio show.
Yeah.
Joe
Take it
West was
right
a card.
over.
We
He was a
need to
character.
have an Ultimate Cleveland sports show, like Sports Day, where like Mikey plays against DeQuell in basketball.
Yes.
Tyvus goes against you in baseball.
I'm ready.
G and I could do a sumo wrestling match.
Anthony's got to stop PKs from all of us.
I ain't touching
that'd be
nobody's body.
Carl,
I'll play all the video
what's your go-to
games.
sport?
Director Steve plays chess against Director Mike.
No, he's the band for all of the competitions.
that's true.
You know, he's the marching band.
By the way, somebody in the chat said this
Well,
is
hold-
actually
Earl-
facts too.
You go first. You go first. Sorry.
Actually, somebody said this in the chat. Somebody
Yeah.
was like, "Does G. Bush pluck his eyebrows? Because I can't see him. I never noticed that. Where did they go?"
We're learning a lot of things about your face now.
Right,
that we're on the
right,
live.
yeah.
We're talking about
Because
internet
normally your
comments,
glasses
G.
hide that.
Why is
But
he
he doesn't
got
have eyebrows.
Do you pluck your eyebrows?
No, they're just slight.
I mean, them joints right here. I mean, there's a little bit of a corner right here.
If we're talking about internet comments, someone in the YouTube chat said, looks like G. Bush's eyes took PTO today.
That's funny.
And that's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PC Airfoils in East Lake Manor, Wycliffe, and Nerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. That is back-to-back days with great internet comments.
The
We had
chat
Lawrence-
is undefeated lately.
Lawrence yesterday with
Yes, they
the
are.
OnlyFans cookbook, and then
That was
Matt
great.
with-
Did y'all think
That was good.
Did y'all see that the Titans released Taylor Lewan?
He did. He hasn't played
You know
much
what?
the last few years.
He's really dove into the media world.
Yeah,
he's going to be a
what,
media.
Barstool
He's
or
going to be a
something?
media superstar.
Yeah.
He's going to be, you know.
By the
He already is. His
He
podcast
is.
does silly numbers.
But he's
and
it's
he's
going
like
to be
32 and played 2 games last year. So
Yeah.
I don't know what he's got
Is
left.
it,
in the tank.
is it messed up that the time just keeps flying? I remember he got drafted. Like,
Yeah, I know.
It's just
I
like,
do too.
Where
I
is
do
he
too.
out of?
Michigan.
State?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Oh, I hate him.
Yeah, I know you.
And
do.
we still got top 5 guys.
I
By the-
want to not like him in his podcast because he's a Michigan guy, but he's funny.
By the way, I got somebody I spoke to yesterday says, "Man, I love watching you on the TV show more than even radio because at least now you cut out all of those shitty callers."
Yeah, that can slow down a radio
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Hey, Tim from Bedford, what do you got?
All right, so we got a top 5. That's what Tim from Bedford's got today. And it is our 5 best second basemen
Yes.
in baseball heading into the 2023 season.
Did you struggle with this, Bull? I struggled with the order a little bit.
The top 3 to me was easy.
Yeah.
Well, I actually debated 2 and 3.
I could have moved some too.
But I think 4 through 9 or 10 is like a toss-up.
Yeah, it is.
After the top 3 to me. But go ahead, Mikey.
Well, who's your 5?
Okay, here's our top 5.
Top 5.
I thought 4, were pretty much locks. I think 5 you could argue, but we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes. Number 5, I had Gleyber Torres of the Yankees.
Oh no, that's way
That's
too high.
Yankee bias. He's
That
not
is
top
way
5.
too high.
He had 24 home runs last year.
I
He
know
had his
he
best
did.
defensive season already. He also had 28 doubles, which was second among second.
That's-
Yeah, that's just too high.
That sounds like a French pater. Like that. Like I'm just.
He's
gonna
Hispanic.
Listen, he still sounds like a French. Gleyber Torres. That's like, yo, I lived in France, but I was from Spain and Portugal. Like, no, I don't know who that guy is.
By
at
the
all.
way, the Gleyber Torres was acquired by the Yankees. Do you know how they got him?
Chapman, right?
The Aroldis Chapman trade with the Cubs.
Oh, wow.
And at the
That
time,
worked-
people
that's
were
worked.
saying the Cubs gave up way too much. They did not. Chapman obviously helped them win the World Series, even
Yeah.
though he blew it. But Gleyber Torres has been a huge disappointment as a Yankee in the last few years, and he's pretty good. And because there's no clear number 5 guy, I can't kill you, but you're overrating him.
I think he's. I have him in my top 10, but not
He's top 10,
Not
yeah,
close
yeah.
to the top 5.
Okay, that's fair.
All right.
Number 4, Marcus, and I pronounce his last name wrong
Semien.
every time.
Yeah.
It's Simeon, correct?
Semien.
Semien.
Semien. He had a down year last year, but he might be the most skilled second baseman.
I
in
have
the
him at
league.
number 3, actually.
Top to
Oh,
bottom.
really? I got
Yeah.
him 4. I
Sound
think
like
you nailed it
somebody
there,
I know.
Mikey. He's my 4th.
I did struggle. I did struggle because I think I've got my number 4 is probably not in your guys' list.
I don't even know who that is.
Perhaps.
That's Trevor Simeon's younger brother, who's a top recruit that goes to Arkansas.
Wasn't
The
Trevor
thing with-
Simeon a quarterback of the Broncos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
So it's
or used to
believable.
be.
I think
Okay,
The
who's-
thing with
I think he with the Saints
it's Simeon
now.
versus my number 3, which we'll get to in 1 second, Steve. Don't take it. The question is, can he refine his 2021 form? And the question for
Probably
me here
not.
with Jimenez
had
at
a
number
good
3
year.
is, can he prove it again and do it a second year
I
in a
have
row?
Jimenez as 2.
I have Jimenez as 2. I thought it was a debate. Obviously, Jay doesn't have the guy at 2 that I do. I'm sorry. I had Jimenez at 2. The guy I have at 3, I thought it was borderline. The guy I have at 3
plays
has
for the
had
Mets.
more good seasons than Jimenez, but I thought Jimenez's season this
plays
past
for them.
year was better than any season by this other
And
guy.
why is it debatable that they're just not going to keep him? Why is that a thing?
I don't think that is debatable. Of the guys that they have to lock up long term, I think Jimenez is at the top of the list.
It's Rosario that might be
Yeah,
gone.
Rosario's the guy that they
Jimenez
talked
has
about.
still
maybe
got
trading.
plenty of years of
He
control.
does. We've got
Rosario's
control of
only
him for
got
a couple
1 year
more
left.
years, but
But he's going to get a deal, right? You should get him
yeah,
a deal.
hopefully.
of all the guys that are in that, he's 24. He's the guy I
They
want to
should
see
lock
them
him
lock
up now.
up long term.
I would lock the 2 guys I'd most want to lock up right now are him and Quan, because I think
right.
Quan's
Young.
skill set is so projectable.
They're both all-star caliber
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
players.
I thought she was going to say Gonzalez, but
Who's your number 2 then?
I just couldn't put Jimenez
Jeff
above
McNeil.
1 or 2 because he did
I
it
had
1 year.
McNeil at 4.
Okay.
I
I
wasn't
had
sure.
McNeil at 2.
Yeah,
Really?
McNeil's 2.
Yeah, McNeil. He
I
batted
love
3.
McNeil.
Yeah,
I
he's
do
so
too,
good. He
but-
also, by the way, he only had 9 home runs last year, but he had 37 doubles, which was the most of any second base in the league. So he's got some pop in his bat, but he hit 326 last year. If
Yeah.
he puts those home run numbers
I
up a
just
little bit, he's
here's the
phenomenal.
problem with McNeil and why I ultimately, even though he's had more big years than Jimenez because he's been around longer, I ultimately put him 3 because he has no power. He has no home run power. He only
He had
had
9 last year.
Yeah,
right.
for a second baseman, that's I can't. I struggled putting him at 4. I didn't think you guys would have him in
No, I love him.
because he doesn't hit for power.
I love him, and he was on my fantasy team last year. But
Oh, no wonder.
but
That's what it
he
is.
And he has position flexibility because he can
Yeah,
play a lot of
that
positions.
helps. That
But
helps.
the only year he hit a lot of home runs was 19, when the ball was juiced and everybody was hitting home runs.
that
Yeah.
he sounds.
That's like when Brady Anderson hit all those.
Well,
no-
Brady did it because he was
These
juicing.
are second base is kind of a down position.
no clue.
There's a
who
lot
that
of just
is.
like
No,
good
I've
players.
never heard
not a
of
lot
Give me a solid defensive second baseman.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's not.
Never
It's
heard
not like
of him.
catcher, but I will sacrifice some pop for the glove.
For sure.
You
sure.
want to be strong up the middle.
Jeff-
and all these guys pretty
Jeff
much are good defensive
McNeil.
second
Jeff
basemen.
McNeil is the special teams coach for the Dolphins. I don't know who he is. Jeff McNeil?
Jeff
All
McNeil.
right, give me
Well,
number
first of
one.
all, I bet a lot of Guardians fans don't because he's we don't see him.
But here's the
That's
thing:
crazy.
with the new schedule now,
We'll see him.
They will.
Yeah.
You're every National League team will be here every other year.
Every other year, yeah.
The rules
And we'll
change.
play every National League team every year.
Every year.
Okay, so number 1, I don't think there's a debate.
Yeah,
right?
obviously. Tell
Yeah,
me.
I put out Tuve. I can't stand him, but I still think he's the best second baseman
Although,
in
I'll
baseball.
tell you, it was no debate for me. I was going to easily
No,
throw him at
yeah,
number
yeah.
1. I thought you might ding him for how horrible he was last year in the postseason.
I mean, I factor in everything, but ultimately his track record,
Yeah,
his body of work.
He's a Hall of
there's
Famer.
no debate. Yeah.
He's-
And
although,
last,
you know
last
what?
year was one of his better offensive years too.
Yeah, well, he had a great offensive year, but in the playoffs, the guy, he got, 1 or 2 hits the entire postseason?
he was terrible in
He was
playoffs.
awful. But one thing I wanted to bring up, I know we only have a couple minutes left. When I was doing this, I go, yeah, he's number 1. You know, even though he had a bad postseason, he's a surefire Hall of Famer. And then I started thinking, is he a surefire Hall of Famer?
Because of the cheating?
Because of the cheating.
We don't know how they're going to react to that.
I know, we don't. It's not like it's steroids.
I can't remember who I had as my
I bet
5.
they make him wait. He's not. I don't think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Although when you see Jose Altuve in person, he's small on TV.
Yeah.
When
tiny.
you stand next to
It's
Jose
amazing.
Altuve, you're literally like, what grade are you in?
One of the most amazing.
He is tiny.
One of the most amazing pictures ever is that picture of him standing next to Aaron Judge.
Yes.
Is like insane because
You know
Aaron
what?
Judge.
I equate that to the picture that comes
Yeah,
out
they're
every
like, shit,
August
yeah.
from the Little League World Series, where they put the kid from Saudi Arabia who's 6'2",
Yeah.
next to the kid from Texas who's 4'11".
Yeah.
And when you look at the Altuve and Judge disparity,
It's
that's
crazy.
what it reminds me of.
There's a foot difference.
It's more than a foot. Judge is 6'7".
What is Altuve listed
I
as?
think he's 5'5".
He's listed at 5'9", but he is.
He's not
certainly
5'9".
not
He
5'9".
is nowhere near 5'9". I'm telling you, when you stand next to him,
I've interviewed him, and I don't look down on many people. I look down on him.
How tall are you, Mike? Really?
tiny.
Like 5'8".
Yeah,
I'm
he's
5.
I'd say maybe he's 5'6".
I think I'm 5'8" or 5'7", maybe. I don't even know.
What's so crazy is his bat speed, his wrists are so strong.
Amazing.
You expect a guy like that to maybe be a punch and Judy hitter. This guy,
Slap hitter.
I mean,
He's got great
his
baseball
power
instincts.
And you know what? Nobody gave that kid a chance. We had to show up to baseball tryouts, and they were dismissing him as soon as they put their eyes on him.
Yeah.
Well, like Pedroia, right? Before him.
Very much
I
like
mean,
Dustin Pedroia.
Yeah.
At second base, we have less than a minute. The only position where you could be significantly undersized and still be an unbelievably productive
Probably.
baseball player.
I think probably.
Not
Maybe a tiny
necessarily.
corner
5'6".
Quan, I guess.
Yeah, but think about it.
Jose Ramirez is kind of small. He's not no prototypical power hitting
He's
third
a lot
baseman.
bigger than 5'6", though. And
We got like
But
20
if you
seconds,
saw
by the way,
Jose
20
Ramirez
seconds.
didn't know who he was, you wouldn't think he was a great baseball player.
no,
Just looking
no.
at him.
You saw him in the gym, didn't you?
Yeah, and you
Right.
would never know he's an all-star. Never know.
That guy's something else, too.
All right, we got to wrap.
All right, we're going to overtime.
ya.
We've got a
See ya in
great topic
overtime.
today. We're not going to tell you. We're just going to tease you by saying it's
Pull
a great
up.
topic. If you're not a Coach's Tier member, go drop the $4.99. You won't regret it. See you tomorrow.
Cass is saying when did Ben Simmons get tatted up like that?